Hello and welcome back to the ARK of E podcast. My name is Noah.
And my name is Gavin.
And we're the Blanchard brothers. And we are back after a little teeny tiny break, the only one we've really taken this year.
Yeah.
Because we had to properly, prepare.
Yes.
For Barbenheimer weekend.
Yes.
And we still have yet to do a proper Mission Impossible episode for Dead Rec, so this is going to take the place of that as well. I think we're going to just broadly title this Summer Catch-Up.
Yeah.
And we're going to do movies right now. We're going to transition into TV at some point, but you probably won't hear that till next week. So, yeah. Let's just start. I mean, we've had the weekend to reflect.
We've had the weekend in a TV show.
Yeah.
So it's been a crazy summer.
We'll get to
or
that.
as Mom and Dad call the summer that wasn't.
The summer that wasn't?
Right. Because they've been working on the deck. The guy just got it done to where we could swim in the pool, and I think Dad said he was gonna hit the guy up as soon as he was done with the deck and be like, okay, now how much for a privacy fence, and just do that now so the next summer.
And the hot tub.
Yeah, of course.
Just knock it all out.
Mm-hmm. 5 revenue streams, guys. That's what you're looking for. You want to have a solid retirement, a good pension for yourself. A retirement.
That sounds like an interesting concept.
Yeah, five different revenue streams.
Okay. Let's not get too lost in that. We saw Oppenheimer.
Separately, not together.
Yes, separately.
I saw it in 77 millimeter IMAX.
77. So you found a whole new format.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay.
Mm-hmm. It
70
really,
I believe is what you're talking about.
77 millimeter. Yeah, dude. You didn't see it in that cut, dude?
Nah,
it
I
changed
didn't
the
know
whole movie,
such
dude.
a print existed. Apparently, I was watching.
When you're getting
format.
to see atoms through his eyes, it's like, oh my god.
70 mil IMAX?
I don't know what it was. Just IMAX. I wasn't gonna go see it in RPX. I knew that much. I was like, if I'm gonna go see this movie, it's gonna be an IMAX movie.
It was, labeled as IMAX.
It was the giant IMAX at Regal, because in Columbia, Regal has that RPX.
And it was
IMAX.
on film. It was not a digital DCP IMAX blown up. I see. Okay. Anyways,
I don't know.
Weirdly, Charleston, I don't think has a single IMAX screen.
I thought that was the.
They have some RPX. They have some large format theaters.
I'm thinking the aquarium
would basically be referred to as Limax. But I saw it in just a big old screen. I had to go to North Charleston for this one because my theater right by the house was booked out well in advance.
Yeah.
So I made the drive over to North Charleston. It was packed. It was the most packed I've seen a movie theater in a long time, which was refreshing. I go to the movies a lot. Definitely, more packed than Dead Rec weekend, which we'll talk about. We'll get to it. But
did you see a lot of Barbie there too?
Absolutely.
Yeah, me too.
And within the Oppenheimer screening, I saw a lot of people dressed that had either just gone or were about to do the double feature.
And did you do Thursday night or Friday night?
I did Thursday.
Oh, wow. Okay.
At 5 for Oppenheimer. So first screening available in our area.
See, I did Friday at 9 o'clock or 7 o'clock. And they were going to do, I was like, I don't know. I don't want to wait for it. Because they were going to do an 11 one. They did one more. They did 3.
They did one at 11?
Yeah, dude. I was like,
That lets out at 2 a.m.?
Yeah. I was like, I don't, because I get there and Bex is like, come on. I'm like, hey, I told you we could come back tomorrow in the afternoon. Some of us get off work at 6 and have to rush over because she gets off 4 or 5. And yeah, she drove up from Sumter, but still. But yeah, and I'm getting there and there's these 40-year-old women in pink with their friends. And I'm like, they might get it, but these children aren't going to get it. I don't think these children are going to the movie that they think they're going to. And I desperately wanted to be in the theater when people figured that out. But I also was happy that I went and sat for 3 hours with Christopher Nolan, who I feel like, this is my little inside joke, this is his, fuck you guys because of Tenet. When Tenet didn't do that well, he said, okay, name me one person. Just throw a name out. I'll make a movie about him that's so fucking riveting. You'll be like, yeah, Chris, we you never lost it. You've always had it. Calm down, dude. Because that's what I feel like this.
Have you also, I can't take credit for this one, but have you heard the take that the meta version of Oppenheimer is that it's essentially him reckoning with his own guilt over spawning the superhero genre with Batman Begins.
That actually
and
fits
ruining
fucking perfect.
cinema, the thing that he loves more than anything.
Well, it makes it perfect if he had the guy who is the face of that deliver like the best performance I've seen him have in like 10 years. Yeah. You know? So that rates really well. I could go with that 100%.
We'll get to that. Let's put it on pause because you were just talking about it. I saw it last night, so I don't want to have like a big one-sided conversation. Are you going to see Barbie?
Yeah, I want to.
Are you excited to?
I mean, it's one of those where like...
Or are you more of the mind right now of like, well, everybody else has seen it. I don't want to. Is that like a little bit of FOMO, or were you excited to see it to begin with? What was your read on it? I'm just curious. And for both of these, like excitement level for this weekend and the whole marketing hoopla leading up to it.
I mean,
the pairing of the two of these.
I got excited just because, I mean, I'll go see Ryan Gosling in anything. I love The Gray Man. You know, one of the few who do.
It was nice to see my boy on the big screen.
Yeah,
that's what I'll say. Yeah, you know? I saw it last night. I had a lovely time with it. To your point, yeah, I do. I mean, it's rated PG-13, and I think the marketing, without really spoiling what the movie is, has communicated like this is going to be subversive. So it's not like we're not aiming for like little girls, but I think for like young women, like I think basically like 10 and up, this is like it hits a sweet spot for, and especially like mother-daughter relationships, which she's obviously amazing at in like Lady Bird, for instance. Right. But the amount of Greta Gerwig that she was able to get into this giant IP summer movie, to me, was kind of astounding. Margot Robbie's fucking fantastic in it. Gosling is pitch perfect, as you can imagine. But
my biggest thing.
Go ahead.
I wanted it to be a hit, and I wanted it to be successful.
I mean, it is a big old fat hit right now.
Well, and mainly because like I spent most of Christmas, around Christmas, December, getting all of Bex's old like year limited edition collector Barbies out and taking photos, because I was like, when this movie comes out in July, we're gonna post these on every place.
We're living large.
We're gonna see just how much people really love Barbie. Are they gonna go to Mercari or eBay or wherever and get this whole collection? Because it's like 20 years of stuff. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I've never opened them. I know her. It's just something my mom got me, and I'm like, well, let's just see. So like I knew it was gonna be a big hit. It's interesting that like, you know, I don't know, because I don't have children, and I mean, I had an Aladdin and Jasmine Barbie when I was a kid.
Like, I had Baywatch,
right?
A 2-set, which I believe was the guy came with a like a, what do you call it? A ski-doo?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Jet ski.
Yeah. Yes, and the woman who was a rough approximation, I guess, of Pamela Anderson, right. But in my head it was Summer.
Yeah,
who was my personal favorite as a kid watching Baywatch. Summer,
Nicole Eggert?
Short hair, blonde hair. Yeah, and Matt.
Yes,
who I was like, that's the guy. But she came with a dolphin, if I remember correctly. Okay. He came with a jet ski. But I had my Baywatch Barbies.
Becky actually has the Jeep for Baywatch.
A 4 or 5 year old,
and a boat for Baywatch Barbie as well.
Yeah,
yeah. No, and it's like it's one of those things. It's weird to think about like. And I loved it, like the first trailer, seeing it of like the pairing with like 2001. It's like, I get it. Like you could do this. I mean, you're not going to do the same for G.I. Joe, you know, but it's still in the same vein of like boys play with G.I. Joe, girls play with Barbie. Well, and I like that there's like that was the thing back in the day. And so I expected there to be some level of like, no, boys can play with Barbie and girls can play with G.I. Joe, whatever. Like there's just, if we're going fluidity, like, gender roles, whatever it is, and I'm sure there's commentary on like the fact that women run that world of Barbie, from what I read, and then like the men are just kind of like, we're just here, we're guys, we're hanging out, having fun. I've got my buddies, my best friend, and my lady, and we're just gonna hang out in the playhouse. And then just hearing her be like, "You guys ever think about death?" I was like, "I'm in, dude. I want to watch this shit," because like that's hilarious to me to think of like just on a level of like a toy thinking that, much less a woman who's like part of a matriarchy, having bigger questions about what her life and like her existence is. Like,
that's the shit basically where I'm like, I feel like a young child will, a lot of the more subversive elements will go over their head, so any concern over that is kind of irrelevant. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of shit about that online. But anyways, I just genuinely think they would be bored and confused by pretty much the last the last act of the movie.
Right.
That is like, some pretty heady themes again for, putting into a big old piece of IP.
Yeah.
I thought it really, really worked. It doesn't land the plane on like all of its ideas, but it has a lot of them.
Yeah.
And the performances are great. The art direction in particular, and like set design, the costumes, dude. Just the way they rendered that without, it has a very particular look. It's not Wes Anderson-y, even though structurally you'd be like, oh, well, that's something I could approximate it to. It is 100% its own visual language and style.
And is it like Oppenheimer with no CGI? Is that
I mean, to that point, no bullshit, I was genuinely blown away where I'm like, these two conceivably are going head to head on some technical Oscars, because if the art direction and all of that is not nominated for Barbie, I would be astounded, because what they achieved practically is pretty wild when you see it. I look forward to having a more in-depth conversation with you, but solid thumbs up from me. I look forward to our further discussion. I just wanted to say we didn't get to do the full on double feature experience. I had to wait till Monday. I saw it last night because, I mean, it was book solid, dude. I was trying to get a decent seat basically since Thursday. Like, when I got out of Oppenheimer, in the back of my head, I was like, I really would like to do both tonight. Like, let me see if I can pull it off. And everything was just completely blotted out. And so I get up on Friday and I'm like, all right, I work a half day. Let me see. Nothing. Saturday, I was like, first screening, surely there'll be something available. Nothing, dude.
Nothing
I went
good
to the
or book solid?
What's that?
Nothing good or book solid?
We're talking book solid for most showings here. I think the final figure was like somewhere around 337 worldwide.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Which is insane and awesome. I'm curious to see, like I'm saying, I think it will have those kind of legs like I was just talking about earlier, of people who are just like, oh, I don't want to be left out of the conversation. Like, I wasn't going to go see it, or I was kind of on the fence about it, but it feels like everybody in the world's seen it but me. So I feel like it'll have that second wave. Plus, there's not like a huge opener next weekend. There's Disney's Haunted Mansion, which looks fun, but I don't expect to really make a dent. No. And then there's Talk to Me, the A24 horror movie that is supposed to be like the belle of the ball, and I'm very, very excited for. But I think that'll do well with the horror heads, but it's probably not going to be like The World on Fire or anything out of the gate.
I've got a 128 to 145 million budget, and as of today on IMDb, just roughing it, 382.4. So
382 worldwide.
That's just box office. It doesn't break down worldwide or not. So
that is worldwide. Yeah, it's like it did like 160, I think, domestic. Biggest opening for female director. Biggest opening of the year.
Yeah.
Big ol' success. And to that point, as we transition into Oppenheimer, I think it's hard to argue that this was not a rising tide lifting all boats sort of situation.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think if Oppenheimer came out this same weekend and say Barbie was next weekend,
it'd get dead in the water.
I don't think it would be dead in the water. I don't think it would have done 80 million opening weekend. I don't think it would have.
Yeah.
I think weirdly, the marketing of these two movies that on their surface could not be more different from each other, but actually have some weird parallels that we could get into. They are kind of about reckoning with complicated figures from recent American history. So they have that in common. And so, but yeah, I think it was just everybody got wrapped up in the hype of it. But to release this movie, a 3-hour biopic that is like super talky, very fast paced, and you got to stick with it. You got to go for it, and it's not really like a, oh yeah, that was an awesome time at the movies sort of movie. To sell that in the summer when I'm just like, this is so clearly a fall awards contender. Like this should be going head to head with Killers of the Flower Moon in my head.
Yeah, definitely.
The ability for him on his name pretty much alone. I mean, this cast is stacked,
dude.
But it's, let's be real, it's his name and the subject matter that you're just like, those are the selling points. I cannot think of another director working right now who could open something on this scale with this, like, with this at the center of it. And it just was kind of a reaffirmation. I was like, he's a household name at this point for more than just the film Twitter bros that we like to like peg him with. He's a dude. He's been for a while.
Did you catch Cillian Murphy and Mark Maron's conversation?
I did. Of course I listened.
So the fact that he's like, me and Chris ran into you, and you were too cool for us, and like you talked to me, but you didn't know it was Christopher Nolan. I'm like, and he's like, oh yeah, fuck, I messed that up really bad. I'm like,
you're definitely never going to be in a Chris Nolan,
right? You know, but it's also, of course, that's on brand for him. But like, you got to think at some point Christopher Nolan was like, wow, that guy's pretty cool. Like he didn't speak to me at all. I commented on his boots, and he was just like, oh yeah, they're these. Like I'm supposed to know what this brand is. And I think that lends its credit to, because it's like, it's the argument that, like, one of my favorite, he was a podcast, Jason Pargent, back when the Crack podcast was big, he would talk about how, like, YouTube stars could go out to lunch with their families and nobody would know they're millionaires. I think it lends itself, like, yes, us film nerds, we're going to know who Chris Nolan is, but he is just kind of like unassuming. He's not like the tall, long hair Michael Bay kind of, you know, whatever. He's not like bearded, like, you know, like what all those dudes from the 70s that had beards when they came out. He doesn't have like a profile that you're like, oh my God, that's Chris Nolan. He could just kind of blend in. And I appreciate that amongst 50% of the population.
Sure.
The other 50 is probably like, oh my God, dude, that guy made Memento. That guy made fucking The Dark Knight. Made The Dark Knight Rises, you know? But again, it just, I don't know how you, I mean, because again, the Godfather, the Adam, whatever you want to call it, like, how do you just think in your mind, oh, I'll make a really entertaining movie about this complicated dude, and, you know, you'll remember another random dude that is a true part of his story. You'll remember not only that, like, my lead guy nails it, but who I would argue is the supporting dude fucking kills it. Like, I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says, that Robert Downey Jr. performance, one of the best ones I've seen from him in years. Like, fucking years, dude. And let's not forget, fucking Gary Oldman is in this movie for 5 minutes and basically just kind of shuts it down and is like, no, I'm still like a great, like, you know, character actor, performer, you know, I'm in this too, you know. That was probably my second favorite scene.
Okay.
So, yeah. I mean, where do you want to start? Do you like...
I was going to ask you.
I mean...
Jesus Christ.
Okay. One of the things that I thought was interesting, and...
spoilers for Oppenheimer.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Oppenheimer, you should go see it. Are we saying Oppenheimer first, then Barbie, or Barbie, then Oppenheimer?
In terms of order?
Yeah.
If you're doing the double feature, Oppenheimer, Barbie.
Yeah, you got to end lightly.
With like maybe like dinner in between.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah. Make a day of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely the order I would do.
Okay.
These psychos who are suggesting otherwise, I'm like, that's not the vibe.
Right.
It's not the vibe. Not the kind of vibe I want to have.
Mm-hmm. So the thing...
Or just split them up the way I did.
Yeah, that works.
And see them in whatever order you want to.
Yeah. So,
just go support movies.
You should, yeah. And another way you can support is by, I don't know, whatever the... You
could also go give Dead Reckoning another look, because I feel really bad for it now. I really do.
I feel worse for Indiana Jones, but...
I don't feel bad for Indy. It was fine.
Yeah. I'm sure it's still great. I got to catch it. I don't feel bad for Disney.
No, I'm saying it was fine. So it did what it did because they made an okay movie.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm saying if they had made a banger, it would have done what they needed it to do, and they didn't do it, so it didn't do it. It's not a complicated equation.
It's not atomic rocket science. Hey, but yeah, no,
it's not theoretical physics.
It's right. Yeah,
it's not fission.
Yeah, it's fusion.
Or fusion.
It's fusion. Like, okay. Obviously, if you make it all cohesive and it's good, it'll fuse together and be great.
So yes,
spoilers for Oppenheimer.
Yes.
The thing that I I don't think the movie does it heavy-handedly, but you are told it, and so I can't take credit for it because it's given to me, and I'll state it, is that, like, for the longest time, when you mention J. Robert Oppenheimer, I know he worked on the Manhattan Project.
Right.
I don't know anything else about him, right?
I think that's kind of the base level knowledge
80,
that I would say
90% of people, right?
Come into this movie
Right.
with.
So
Yes.
when you're told, I gave him what he wanted to be remembered for the bomb, not for Hiroshima. I did that to him. That's what he wanted. I'm like, I don't think he wanted to be remembered for either of them, but I get that that's the consciousness in my brain because, yeah, I don't think, when I think of Hiroshima, Nagasaki, I don't think of Robert Oppenheimer. I think that after, Hiroshima happened, that 1,300 men went in the water, 300 come out, sharks ate the rest, give or take. I'm sorry, it's a Jaws reference because I watched Jaws 1, 2, and 3 last couple weeks. But I do think of, like, that's got to be a heavy thing for a president to do, not knowing what it would be. So when you're told, like, hey, we got this, we really should let everybody know what we can do. We should share this information with our allies because if they know what it can do, even if they build it, they might not drop it. But the decision to say, nah, dude, we're just going to drop it on them. See what happens. Fuck it. We're going to wing it. Do you remember what happened 5 years ago? You don't? Okay. Well, let me tell you. Because you could have said, look out to this tiny little island. Get a boat and go out to this tiny little island. We're going to drop this new thing we built on this island. See if you want that, like, mainland Japan. And who knows? Maybe seeing that kind of destruction, the Japanese might have said, all right, we're good. Surrender. But we didn't do that. So to have the mind, the awareness, the forethought, and the idea of, like, if we don't do this, the people who are trying to, like, tear the world apart, if they are probably going to try and do it anyway, so we should do it. To figure out halfway through that, well, they're done. Should we even keep doing this? Well, yeah, we should probably keep doing this. We should still do this thing. And then to see what it does, and just that shot of them watching the two things leave on the boat, on the truck, I'm like, dude, how could you, knowing, like, what that can do? Like, that's I can't imagine, like, that sort of, like, burden of thinking, like, I just made this thing and there is no doubting that, like, I mean, we thought it was going to burn the world up. We thought it was going to, like, it could, like, start a fire that never ended, and that's the end of us, the whole planet. Theoretically, it could. It didn't, but it also did a lot of damage. And so we're going to drop, and with Matt Damon being like, oh, we're going to drop it here, and then we're going to drop it here, and we're going to keep doing it until they stop. And it's like, you understand the rationale, but you can't look at it now and feel good about it. I can understand, and I appreciate being shown how people felt good about it in the moment. But every one of us, there's only one person alive that I know of, that I personally know, who's lived in both worlds, and that's our grandfather. He was born he was born as all these guys are thinking and doing this stuff, sort of, Mm-hmm. When's the theory of relativity for Einstein? Like, it's mid-20s?
Sure.
Yeah. So he's born, Depression still. But he's an adult man when we split the atom and we drop a bomb on the Japanese,
Mm-hmm.
And the love and affinity I have for that country, having grown up over there, I constantly think about what it means to be the only country, nation, ethnicity, group, whatever, to ever have that sort of destruction wrought on them, and what they've done since. To the point, I've said it before, it's not a war memorial, it's a peace memorial. It's almost this whole thing of, like, yeah, we know, it's kind of like it's not even by any means, but it's just this mutual thing of, like, this happened, we did this to you, you did this to us, and we don't see the benefit of calling things that this was a war thing. We're going to call them peace things because we're at peace and we're friends now. And I know there's still a contingent of the youth now that's like, why the Americans still here? That's neither here nor there, but it just,
I feel like
so
that's
much.
always going to be present. But overall, I mean, that's something that almost I would like to see another movie made about. But yeah. The way that our two nations have like not semi, but like very much, very succinctly, very quickly afterward, like kind of like mid to late 1960s forward, when you start getting like the influx of business and all of that.
Oh, it starts 1960 when they rebuilt all that stuff for the Olympics. Everybody being shocked, like, oh my God, dude, this place was
pretty
rubble
interesting how we all
10
at the
years
end of
ago.
the day were like, oh yeah, but we all kind of like money, so I guess that trumps everything, and we can find some common ground.
I mean, and you can, because you got to ask yourself, in the grand scheme of things, who really won that one? Who are we indebted to? Where's our technology come from? Where are we sending a lot of money? And again, we cut off their oil, kind of forced their hand a little bit. They didn't have to do what they did, but they did. Same thing with us. We didn't have to do what we did back, but we did. And that is the beauty of this movie, is that it doesn't matter where you're coming from it at. It only, to me, it only exists in that presence. And I don't think there's, like, I wasn't sure what I was going to see. And when all I got was like the fervor of the crowd and him stepping onto a body, like through the chest cavity of a body, when that was all I got, I was like, okay, I'm good. Because had I got a shot of like destruction wrought in the streets, I don't know how I would feel, because I feel like that's
there's
keeping
a lot of things I want to get into, but I do just, we could talk about basically the moment everybody's kind of waiting, the two big questions anybody has going into this, which is how are you going to do the Trinity test, and are you going to show it?
Right.
Like, to put it bluntly, the amount of people I have seen online trying to, like, attempt to elegantly state that they are somehow disappointed with the fact that we didn't see it is kind of fascinating to me. The amount of that I've seen of people who are like, it was all right, but like, we really should have seen it for the impact. And I was like, saying that almost belies that, like, what were you going to this for?
And have you not seen T2? Because to me, that's the best nuclear explosion that we've seen.
I think that, again, I don't want to call it genius or whatever, because I don't know. I haven't read American Prometheus, which is where like most of this comes from, and I don't know how, if that is written in sections in first person, the way that he has essentially tried to split brain this of the subjective and objective view of all of this, color versus black and white,
which I appreciated.
But I think the overall gambit of that totally works, and really, like, it crystallized for me in that sequence you're talking about, where I was like, this is why you do it this way. Mm-hmm. Because there's no way, and even there's a moment a little bit later where they're seeing slides of the aftermath, and we don't see it, and they just play it on his face, and and I realized some people have issue, whatever, fuck what everybody else thinks. I thought it was extremely effective, and it's the last thing I expected from Nolan. And again, I think I was on the record on a couple of pods prior with some reservations that just, like, I don't know if he has all of this in him with, like, his particular style and everything for what I think this movie needs to be. Mm-hmm. And I want to just say, like, he completely proved me wrong.
Right.
Like, all of my reservations about how it would be handled and, like, whether it would be elegantly done were total, like, I thought every choice, while again, the almost actively going against the expectation of how you're going to play these big historical moments.
Do you think that has anything to do with the choice to not be CGI?
Effective?
Like, do you think he made a choice early on to say, I'm not doing any CGI, I'm only going to do this, like, you know, in hand, and that's the case. If that's all real, if like that shot of like the Trinity test, if that's like not a CGI explosion, it may be camera lighting and tricks and all that, not as big as we think, but I think, like, by posing the question beforehand of, like, if we do this, is there potential that, like, basically these things we've been getting glimpses of in his mind's eye of, like, just molecules and things burning around, could that start, and it ends the movie with the planet burning up and whatnot. But like, could that start here? So you ask that question first, and you're in your mind, you're like, wait a minute, did they really think? Because again, we all going into this, we know what happened. We know what we think we know what happened. We have a version of it in our head.
The ability to sustain like this incredible level of pace and tension for, I was definitely not looking at my watch at any point in this movie, but for what feels like the first like 2 hours straight, building up to the Trinity test, is I mean, the first 10 minutes of this is basically like training you for how to watch it. It's basically like, okay, like here's the pace I'm moving at, like, you know, just, yes, this is meant to be overwhelming, but like I'm trying to get you in his headspace. There's a point to this, all of that. And yeah, the way it kind of spits you out on the end of those 2 hours with the culmination of, like you said, we have the Trinity test sequence, which I think, okay, you said, was it a convention of like, was it CGI? In my head canon, what I like to think is he, like a lot of people, like a lot of cool people, like you and I, they saw Twin Peaks: The Return episode 8, and they were like, well, I can't do that because it's already been done.
Right.
The best I'm sorry. No. In my book, in my book, it's still Lunch Baby. Yeah. And I know that's CGI, but that sequence is the best distillation, I think, of, and it's a formal metaphor. It's art within itself, and it goes inside of this thing that we normally only ever see from a distance. Completely different aims, completely different styles or whatever. But I think he was like, I can't just do that because it exists. Like, and you know he saw it. I'm sorry, you know he saw it. So in my head canon, I'm like, I think that's part of it, is I can't go too like,
I can't get lynched with it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is I think what was interesting is he's playing with some like kind of like what for a mainstream audience is probably some really out there techniques with some of the like emulsions and stuff you're seeing in the practical like visualizations of what's going on inside this dude's head early on. And I think the choice in that moment, as I remember it, to not play any of that and to just have the moment itself, have it play on the reaction of the actor, you know, everybody observing it, the moment of this.
The fucking Safdie just putting the zinc on his face. Dude, I was like, dude,
we're going to have character actor corner where we're just going to go through the cast list and we're going to try and determine like who was the best boy of the supporting cast, because my God. But I think that I'm sorry, the way it spits you out on the end of that though, and then the movie has been like just rushing this whole time, and then it really slows down for a minute, and I was like, this is why you make this movie 3 hours. Ultimately, this is why you make this movie 3 hours, so you can have the actual like physical pace of the movie slow down to let you process like the weight of all of this and really think about it for a little bit. And the pace, like, really, there's a hard cut. I think he does a hard cut to black, and then when it fades up, it feels like, oh shit, we're almost like back on fast forward again now, even though things have slowed down a bit. But it's that sequence you're talking about where they pack him up, and it's him and Safdie, Teller is the scientist, standing there as they're driven off, and it's like, this thing's not in your hands anymore, and it's like, okay, now we're gonna like collide.
Somebody else builds a bigger one. You're it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm curious. I am gonna see it again. I'm curious where that hits, like on the timestamp, where we're at, because in my head it's like that's like 2 hours in, and the last act is a full hour or whatever. But it might be like an hour and 45 minutes because I don't know how fast we're moving.
But like what I say, like my thing was just you posing the question of what could possibly happen, and the way it's shot with like, okay, them tell like, okay, when lay down, look at the hill, when you see the light, turn around, look through your thing, don't look at without it, you could fuck your eyes up really bad. You know. And then the tension of, is it even going to work? We had the storm, we're going to wait it out, yada yada yada. And I felt so bad for Bex because like sound was crazy in the IMAX, and she sometimes has a problem with her ears, but she told me afterwards, she was like, I knew when I saw the flash to like go ahead and get ready. And when I'm like, she's like, and I went, well, when is this gonna? And it happened to her. And I was like, I'm so sorry, but like, it doesn't even. There's no like, it's just boom, it's there. Like the blast hits them all, like just the force, 10 miles away. You feel, yeah. And it's just, you are given enough with what they're fearing could happen, with what the reaction is to them. And again, they're all excited. It did work. What you've been doing here it's worth all the money in the world. Get it in a crate, get it on a plane. Just the fact that like
the reality
Damon
setting
does not,
in,
Matt Damon
like,
does
literally.
not come and say anything to him. Matt Damon looks at him coming back, turns around, and goes to get on the phone with somebody. Great. We're not buddies. We may have built a rapport. I may not say the worst things about you later on, but like, I got a job to do, and the fact that it's underpinned with that, I think everything built into that sequence. I would have been really upset if I saw another sequence. I would have been upset if I saw the reaction to that onto the people it was used to, because I didn't need to. What in my mind happened is worse.
It would break the subjective experience of, he didn't see it. He didn't know when it was happening.
Right.
Like, he finds out when the rest of the world does.
Right.
So, yeah, again, that was all very purposeful to me, and purposeful for, like, what the movie's going for. And, again, that expanded kind of time afterward, and particularly the kind of extended horror show sequence of, like, him giving the speech, the surreal elements coming in.
The flapping of people's skin that are celebrating.
Yes.
That is probably... I'm glad I got that, but like, I also like, I don't need anything other than that, because I can understand this guy being like, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I haven't seen pictures of this thing. In my mind, the way my mind works, I'm visualizing all these people who are in a fervor about like how great they did, because in some way I can argue, and it should be stated, that they should be, because they all left their lives, they came to this desert, and they worked on this one thing. Whether they had qualms about what they were doing, the moral ambiguity of it, the scruples as they call it, that's not relevant in that scene. They're all happy that they did the job that they came to do regardless of it, And the fact that I don't know how true it is. I haven't read it. I don't know if the whole thing about like, I hate we couldn't do it to Germany, and I bet the people in Tokyo didn't like it. I'm like, that doesn't sting that bad to me, because you don't know. You have no frame of mind or reference to know exactly what horror you've wrought on the world.
The way it's played in the movie is it's played and delivered in such a way where it's like, that's not his actual, he's playing to the crowd.
It also kicks off the start of Oppenheimer, the politician. Well, the guy who has to sell.
The movie up to that point has not been shy about like questioning like, what the fuck, what's up with this guy? And the way that onion is like slowly peeled, I think, is like very effective. And I think he remains pretty elliptical and obtuse throughout, intentionally so. I don't think the movie, I've seen some reactions that it lets him off the hook, or it tries to martyr him at the end, and I really did not. I came away feeling like this was a complicated rendering of a very complicated individual, and doesn't really doesn't tell you how to. I never felt like I was being manipulated into sympathizing with anyone, really. And some people have pointed out that it's like, you kind of have structurally or whatever, you have Damon as your kind of like go-to good guy or whatever, like he's representing the military, but in general you're like, I like this guy, he's a likable presence, even though he's kind of rough and gruff in this or whatever. And then you have Downey, who, again, spoilers, makes the turn to like, he's kind of the villain of the piece in the back half.
Just for one of the most ridiculous reasons ever,
for sheer bitterness, which I think again is an echo of like, that at the end of the day is what you're dealing with. You're dealing with the pettiness of men of great power, and that's the shit that's gonna do us all in. Like, that's I think he's very clearly showing you like, this little quote unquote microaggression is like the kind of shit that can lead to bombs being dropped,
Right,
and
but
loss of life.
To your point, one of my second favorite scene is when he does go to Truman and say, I feel like, and I don't know if this happened, I feel like I have blood on my hands. He's like, do you think the people of Japan give a fuck about you? Basically, like they might have even applauded you for your efforts and what you did with science. They fucking hate me.
Don't let that crybaby back in my office.
Yes, yeah. You think they give a shit about you? I dropped in on a motherfucker. Don't take that away from me by saying you have hard feelings about it. You don't know. You did your job. You did the thing. You made it. And you told us we probably shouldn't do it. But you know what? I'm the president of the United States, and I made the decision to save countless American lives and drop that motherfucker not once, but twice. Okay? You gonna come in here and talk to me about feelings? Blood on your hands? Get the fuck out of my office. And it was weirdly a way of like, because I know I'm listening to what Cillian Murphy had done to like kind of get in the physical gait of Oppenheimer, and like I don't know how the voice is, but just for Gary Oldman for 5 minutes to be Harry Truman, and I'm like, he's just here to show you like, I still got it. This is how you become a character for 5 minutes.
He just loves to
he fucking
throw
loves
some
it, dude.
throw some makeup on me.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me play
It's
around.
that simple, you know.
Okay, I think this is a good time to
Yeah,
to break into character actor corner.
because everybody and their fucking mother is in this movie, dude.
Okay, so early on, I'm gonna pull up the list. It's kind of probably gonna be by billing, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
IMDb's weird sometimes though. Sometimes it's by like star meter profile. Oppenheimer. And just checking in with the box office while we're over here.
It's like 200 something.
It is currently at 209 worldwide.
So double the budget.
Double the budget.
That ain't bad. Solid.
Well, it looked like $100 million movie, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
All of it on the screen. That's
And
for damn sure.
I think they said what, like maybe a couple months, not too long. Didn't take too long to like actually physically shoot.
Or something like 57
Yeah,
days.
57, 59 days. something like that.
Okay.
Not bad at all.
So I think obviously RDJ is Strauss and Damon are kind of out of consideration here, so we'll set those aside. We got Alden Ehrenreich as the Senate aide.
Yes.
Paired with
Where do I know him
Downey Jr. He was Solo.
That's
which most people forget.
Okay.
But prior to all of that, he was in Hail Caesar. He has like he
that's right. He's that
absolutely
kid.
crushes in Hail Caesar, the Coen Brothers movie, which got him cast in like a billion things. But then Solo kind of like tainted it. He was in Cocaine Bear earlier this year.
That's where I remember
making a little
him
bit
from.
of a comeback.
I remember him from Cocaine Bear.
I've always enjoyed him. I think
He's
very,
great,
very
dude.
good.
I fucking love it.
Yeah. Scott Grimes is also in there of ER fame. As the rotten son of a bitch, that Roger Robb, Jason Clarke. He's the crushed it, dude. Jason Clarke plays a prick better than pretty much anybody.
Anyone, dude. Like, have you seen? I mean, his
pretty great.
what the character he plays in Winning Time, dude. Like,
oh, absolutely.
People talk about how like, is that really how he was? Jerry West was.
Jerry West, yeah.
But it's like it's his own version of it.
Yeah,
so like, I
don't
buy
give
it.
a shit. I love that performance.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, I've heard it's like completely beyond the pale. Tony Goldwyn is also in the interrogation scenes or the hearing that's not
Carl himself.
It's for his yeah, that son of a bitch.
Brenton
Of
Riley.
course, Carl's up there
Carl from
as
Ghost.
as Gordon Gray. That son of a bitch. My boy Macon Blair is the defense lawyer. Just great guy from a lot of Saulnier movies.
The Blue Ruin?
He's the lead in Blue
Yeah,
Ruin.
dude, that's where I like that.
He's
kid.
also in Green Room.
Yes,
He's the
I don't know.
the lieutenant.
Nope. I'm not talking about.
And he's a
Green
good director.
No,
in his
he's
own right.
no, I like
he
that
did
dude.
the I Don't Feel at Home in This World. And,
Yep.
yeah, he's good. Kenneth Branagh as Niels Bohr.
Fucking A.
Good shit. I'm not gonna do everybody. I'm just gonna hit some of our.
Was
some of our big
Heisenberg
names.
a big dude? I didn't recognize him. Was he somebody I'm supposed to
Wade
recognize?
Heisenberg. We'll get to him eventually.
Okay.
Are
you not going to talk about my boy Josh Hartnett?
I'm getting there, dude.
Okay, all right.
Tom Conti
Yes.
as Albert Einstein, of course. One who like I had to be reminded, and then when I sat and thought for a second, I was like, dude, maybe he's my stealth MVP. Fucking Krumholtz, dude.
Dude, Krumholtz as his buddy. I said the name out loud, and Becky looked at me like, "What?" I was like, "So I'll tell you later." Like,
As Robbie, Isidore Robbie, is kind of his fellow Jew.
Yeah.
But he's the first one to kind of be like, to kind of raise the moral question.
Says, I don't know
of,
if I want to be a part of
I
this.
don't know if I want to do this. And I was just like, dude.
And that
Krumholtz,
honestly,
dude. He's so good. I love
that is the
Krumholtz.
only the response to that. There's a line. Someone says something about they're putting our people in camps. That was the only time I called bullshit because we didn't know what the camps were until we got back on the ground in 1944, and even later. Like, we didn't know about camps until they surrendered, essentially. So the idea that somebody says, "Oh, they're putting our," and maybe the Jews did know.
There might have been rumors.
Maybe the Jews did know. Maybe there were family things that they're putting us in camps. We're in camps, but we didn't know like they were killing all of them in these camps. That's true, but it's another one of those like, oh, World War II just starting. Like, no, dude, we weren't calling it World War II back then. It was just the war is on. We're going,
Yeah.
And I've seen people who are like, the flags when they're celebrating, they got 50 stars. They should only have 48 because Hawaii was not a fucking state back then. So it totally ruined the movie for me. That's like me being mad that people in the Bear didn't have hairnets. It's fucking stupid, which we can talk about that later, I'm sure. But yeah, like,
may I continue? Excuse me. You asked about Heisenberg.
yeah, is he somebody I'm supposed to know?
Schweighofer,
I've never heard of
who
him.
was in Army of Thieves. He was Dexter. Or Dieter, excuse me, in Army of the Dead.
The safecracker. Okay, I would say he looks familiar, but I didn't know if he was somebody I was supposed to know. Or
Yeah,
not.
I think that's pretty much it. But we really liked him in that.
Yeah.
He was good. Hartnett as Ernest Lawrence gets some nice meaty scenes in the first half. I just love seeing our boy, man.
Dude,
I don't know. The fact that he kind of took like all the dudes, like just all of them from a certain age range, and was just like, I got parts for all of you.
Yeah.
And they were all like, I'll do scale. I'll come and show up for a day, and like maybe most of my shit will be cut. Maybe I'll just be in the background somewhere, dude. Like, I haven't even gotten to
Oscar winner Rami Malek.
I was gonna say Michael Angarano.
Yeah.
Who I hadn't seen in anything, who just popped. Like,
who's the guy that he wants to drop the baby off with?
That
guy was familiar.
That's the podcaster from Halloween, 18.
That's who that is. Yeah. And then to that point, we have boyfriend from Halloween as his little brother.
Yes,
that
shitty
blew
boyfriend.
My fucking mind, dude.
We have Alex Wolff from Hereditary.
Yeah.
As one of the scientists as well. Oh my god, dude, the list goes on and on. Dylan Arnold is Frank Oppenheimer, the brother that you're referring to.
Dylan Arnold, that's his name. Yeah.
Jefferson Hall is the Chevalier, the podcaster in 18 that we were just referring to, who is his communist. We haven't talked about the whole communist angle of everything. And while we're transitioning out, dude, I mean, Modine, David Desmalchian, Dane DeHaan.
Oh, dude, yeah,
Casey Affleck, Josh Peck, Jack Quaid.
What's his face? Mr.
Safdie is up there for me.
What's the boy? He's in The Dark Knight. He's a director. You may have said his name already. The FBI dude that got the file and like he came to testify against
David Desmalchian.
That's who. Okay, I don't ever remember his name. I just remember his fucking face.
Yeah,
and it's solely from that bit in The Dark Knight. I'll always recognize him. I'll try to remember his name because he was fucking great in it as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, really, no weak links in the cast. I really went for Benny Safdie.
Dude, are you kidding me?
Just big fan, dude.
Like,
and I don't know if you've heard this. I just heard it today on a podcast. Apparently, they're done as a directing duo.
Oh, no.
I think they did one. I think they have one more that hasn't been released yet that they already shot. I think it's the follow-up. It's the one they were doing with Sandler. But I think going forward, they basically said, like, Benny wants to, like, full-on pursue acting.
As he should.
And Josh will probably keep directing.
Okay.
It won't be the Safdie brothers. It'll just be Josh, who, from everything we've heard, was kind of the main, I mean, especially in the case of, like, Good Time, it's like, yes, they're kind of co-directing, but Benny's acting in it. Right. So, like,
Okay.
So I think, like, a Josh Safdie movie is still going to, like, it'll still feel like a Safdie brothers
Is
movie.
It weird to me, but that if ever it gets licensed and they agree to let him do it, that I would want Josh Safdie to make the Beastie Boys biopic?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Like,
they
it just
think that
feels like it has to
happen.
have, like,
Yeah.
a law. They passed it in New York this year.
Sure.
You know, like, it just I don't know what it is. I know what it is. I watched the Beastie Boys thing on Apple, and like I've gotten back into them more and more.
I mean,
and
I guess they would probably go to Spike Jonze first, who did the documentary. But
yeah, but I think Spike's probably like, you know what? I don't know. I'm too attached. I don't have an objective lens.
maybe
You know, a true young fan
that's a
needs
good
to make
thought.
this.
Okay, we highlighted most of the boys, and you'll notice I highlighted a lot of boys, and I do want to highlight.
Miss Florence Pugh.
No, I was gonna say, I do not think that this movie is without its flaws, and I think two of its most glaring flaws are casting two of our great actresses, and in the course of 3 hours, giving them virtually nothing to do, and not really filling them out. Now, I will grant you, he kind of lampshades all of this by the subjective point of view. Like, well, I'm making a statement by not really showing the wife as a three-dimensional character, and like basically just having like postpartum alcoholism. These are all the things you need to know. I'm like, oh, okay. And she does get to she gets to hammer drop. I mean, she's Emily Blunt. She gets to have her moment at the end of the movie, and like she'll probably get supporting actress nomination. But overall, I'm sorry, I sit and look at both of those roles, and I'm like, for what they were, I don't understand why you didn't either A, cast unknowns or up and comers, because you're not selling this movie on Florence Pugh or Emily Blunt.
No.
Again, as I said, two of the best working actresses of their generation, who are good in what they are given to do in this movie. But you sit there and you go, I understand subjective, this is Oppie shit, but I'm like, I'm also sitting there and I'm going like, in the course of 3 hours, you couldn't you couldn't give me a little bit more, to the point where I was almost like the Gene Tatlock character. I understand you almost need for the communist connection and all of that to be brought in, and it's obviously questioning his character with the affair that resumed later, but
I think the only key caveat with that, it was like, in real life, from what I read at some point, was that a lot of people were blown away that he married Emily Blunt's character. And a lot of people have said, if it wasn't for a pregnancy, he probably would not have. And so you keep the Florence
a kid
Pugh
that they pretty much give away, which we didn't mention.
different.
Okay.
That's a child. That's a boy. It was apparently the daughter they had after that was the one that they had actually talked to them about possibly adopting. But like, yeah, you get the Gene character for like all that, but it is a lot of people. I think that's only there because I don't know if it's from Prometheus or other stuff they looked at, but a lot of people and things I read have been like, yeah, a lot of people were kind of blown away that he married her. We all kind of assumed. Somebody was like, I assumed it was Gene he married. I didn't realize it was somebody completely different.
Well,
so like it's,
and then I love the late third act drop of like, oh yeah, this other quick cut back to party scene. It's like, oh yeah, this other woman that you were having an affair with, who we saw for 2 seconds, and I was like, I loved that was thrown in, because it was just like, fuel to the fire of like, oh dude, we don't know this guy at all, and we never will. That's the other thing, and that's the crux of this whole movie is
I think
you have to make some decisions, because at the end of the day, we got to invent.
We something. And it's like, people don't think this way, I don't think, but like in my head, when you add in those layers of like, okay, there was one woman, then this woman got pregnant, she had her issues, the woman that got pregnant had his kids had issues. You see a little bit of what it's like to like, you come home, you're in Los Alamos, and like, the kids are going wild, and like you just want to sleep but you can't. And then like you throw in halfway later, oh yeah, well he never found out that like he died not knowing that, like he had his suspicions, but like he never really found out I was sleeping with his wife too. I would argue somewhat that's all post-war. So like the post-war like swing sentiment of like you possibly might have died, and like, well, if you were going to die, I was going to take care of you, but now that you're not dead, like could we just swap for a night, and like then well, everything will be normal on Monday. Like I get that whole thing that kind of comes out of that post-war period with the boomers, as they say, like baby boomers and all these children, and obviously this dude's fucking like before the war ends, he's got a bunch of kids, so like,
and they vaguely, I'm sure they could make a whole other movie, and I think they did a whole television series
Possibly.
about the or the project itself, and because they vaguely reference like, oh yeah, there's been like 200 babies born here or some shit like that. You're like, how long have we been here?
Right.
Like, what the fuck? But yeah, dude, you gonna tell me there wasn't some like weird swapping and like wild shit going on behind closed doors?
That's the thing that I feel like I appreciate more than anything is like this dude who was this fucking smart was a little bit socially outcast, a little bit, couldn't really maybe fit in class. The theory thing was whatever. When he got on with women, he got on with women. But like, it's one of those where I don't necessarily, I'm not trying to argue that like, oh yeah, affairs and adultery ground a character for me. But at the same time, it's like that humanizes a dude way more to me than a, you know, oh, I'm having second thoughts about the fact that I did this thing. And I'm like, no, dude, like I get it. Like, one, you made a life. And regardless of how you've treated that life, but like if it's annoyed you or like you want to love it, but you have this work, you have this duty, this obligation to this country you love, your wife may be having postpartum, you've taken these people like this, but that first one's before they all go to Los Alamos, but like, you know, then you move everybody here and there's just a ton of stuff going on and you're just, you know, you're all working towards the same thing. It is crazy to think that like they even got it made. On one hand, just with the and the fact that maybe they only had one spy, not a ton, but allegedly only confirmed one spy that got some secrets out. Okay, you know. So, but the idea that like this, it's like, well, this dude's just like me. I'm not that smart, but like I get it. Like I can understand what it's like to be looked at in a certain way by the people on top, and then the people that you're commanding, and then the people you go home to and are like, what the fuck you doing? Like, what do you got? You know, so you add all that in, but then you add the fact that like you tangentially are responsible for 120,000 dead Japanese people, not just from the blast, but in the 10 years after the blast, all this shit has happened. And that is on you. No, you didn't drop it, but you fucking built it.
You made it possible. Yeah.
You are death, the destroyer of worlds. Now you live with that. Okay.
So again, no objection to like those storylines being incorporated. I just wanted a little more meat on the bone for like, you got these great actors, just give them a little more to do. That was just my
question with her.
Objection.
Maybe I just wasn't paying attention, which I was, but it looked like in a shot when they were explaining how she died, I could have swore it looked like someone was holding her head underwater.
Yes, again, subjective perspective, that just sequences in color, and I took that in the moment to be that that's him imagining this might have happened to her.
Like someone from the Communist Party did it to her, or someone from our government did it to her to disappear her?
We don't know. I took it as the government thing because we're building up all that. We're also, I mean, I feel like we could go on and on, but like I guess the biggest surprise for me overall was like, I knew he liked Michael Mann.
Yeah.
I didn't know he liked Oliver Stone this much.
Dude, that was my first thing, was like, okay, I get it. We're flipping the JFK shit. We saw in the past was black and white in JFK, and the present was in color. He's flipping it on its head again, and he's giving us Memento vibes of when we're seeing what? I get it. I'm here for it. I don't know when they went back in time and they were on a different loop and they were walking backwards, but like I get it.
Here's the thing. I love JFK.
Yes.
Warts and all. Fantastic movie.
Gary Oldman's in that movie.
Do you know what's better? And it took me a long time to realize this, but I will die on this hill.
13 Days?
The unofficial sequel, Nixon.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Stone's director's cut of Nixon.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 3 hours and like 3:30, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood. Incredible. It's a fucking masterpiece. And the whole time I was watching Oppenheimer, I was like, or not the whole time, but I mean, in thinking about it afterwards, I was like, that's the movie it like scratches the closest itch to me of is actually Nixon, dude. If you haven't watched Nixon in a while, go throw it on.
Well, in the fact that we are purposely given like, oh yeah, this guy from Massachusetts didn't like you either. Kennedy, John Kennedy, he didn't like John F. Kennedy, he didn't like you either. So that's why you're not.
I mainly say that because JFK, is kind of misleading. It's not about JFK.
No, not at all.
Literally not at all.
Yeah.
Not really an investigation of the man or even what he meant to history. It literally is about the assassination, and it's a giant conspiracy theory movie.
To that point, do we even have a movie that's about him? I don't feel like we do.
I don't know.
I feel like everything about him is all like adjacent.
Yeah, for the 10 people like
And
myself that watched Blonde last year,
And
maybe
half
the
of the
least
time it's
flattering
Kevin
portrayal.
Costner in a fucking JFK movie.
Yeah, there you go.
So there you go. Or Bruce.
But I thought of Nixon the most because it was another like reckoning with an extremely complicated figure that has a particular. What I mean, what?
I mean, I'm gonna argue like what was okay. So like, Nixon was the guy that ushered in an era of cynicism and us not trusting our government. Okay, that's cool. But like, we can kill ourselves with the atomic bomb. So like, not to me, it's not as polarizing. If we're talking about Oppenheimer or Nixon, to me, Oppenheimer is more polarizing than Nixon. Yes, he did some bad shit.
Oh, I would. Yeah. No, it was not even a question of that. I was just saying, in terms of complicated figures that have maybe a particular occupation in the mind of the public at large, but trying to like, okay, let's look at this from like a complete 360. Let's try and wrap our arms around it, and in doing so, the movie is like, even though he's in almost every scene of it, the movie's not really about Nixon. It's about America, and, like at large. It's fucking brilliant, so good. But yeah, that would be my double feature with this.
Yeah, I can see that.
And it would be a long day. Okay. I have my quibbles, like I said. It's really just directed at that. I know a lot. It seems like the last hour, the third act, has been a little polarizing for some people.
Can I just say what I want to say?
Yeah.
Hey, RDJ, how many scenes did you steal today? Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's totally worth it.
It works.
I was going to jump on your train earlier, but I'll do it now. I think this...
Well, no, my train has no brakes.
I didn't expect to say this like as kind of one of my big takeaways from just my movie-going experiences in 2023. But I think the thing I like most about this entire movie is the fact that somebody let Robert Downey Jr. actually act again.
Yes.
So I actually gave him like a meaty character to portray, and he got to do all the things we love about him as a performer that I feel like I haven't really gotten to fully experience because he's been locked into this one mode for like 15 years. And I didn't know how much I missed it, but it was fucking electrifying. And I say that in a movie where Cillian Murphy is doing such like high wire shit so effortlessly that you don't even realize how good it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he is playing.
How many scenes do they? They have 2 scenes together. That's it.
Yeah.
Like maybe 3 if you are like the round table, the table sequence of black and white, him asking him
with him and Einstein,
and then like the scene. They're not like talking to each other, but the scene where he basically snubs him in front of Congress.
Right.
That's it. And when you realize all of this shit with Oppenheimer and like how he's remembered afterwards is because this dude got mad at him for snubbing him in front of Congress. Like, that's like fuck. You talk about petty. I mean, that's Richard Petty, 500 miles an hour down of a NASCAR track. Like, dude, all of this for that. For what you fucking tried your best to dismantle a man because he made fun of you. Like, what like in front of Congress? Like, what do you go through all these things. You fucking break all these laws. You do all these things. Like, you're giving federal, like, an FBI file. Hey, why don't you... When they do the turnaround and he's in the room with, what's his face? You said his name earlier.
Dane DeHaan.
Dane DeHaan. And you realize, oh, he was in the room with them as well. I was like... I wanted to start clapping because I was like, of course, Nolan. Like, you're going to give us this.
All along.
It was
and
fucking Strauss the entire time, dude.
But that is truly when the Oliver Stone of it all kicks in.
I love
where
it.
you're just like, And I was just like, oh, he's doing JFK.
To that point,
right
when
now.
Rami Malek came and sat down, and was like, I'm here to say, fuck this dude. But basically,
I'm
like,
sure you were cheering. Yes, I mean,
who wouldn't?
just
Okay, let me ask you,
you
this
know
real
I
quick.
have a Malik problem,
I
dude.
know.
As soon as he showed up, I was just like, just get him out of here. Everybody else is fine. Just go.
You
get-
you don't think he deserves the Oscar, or you just don't think he's that
not
great
for
an
that
actor?
movie. Fuck no. And I will boldly
No,
state
that's
as much,
fine.
dude. I'm not diminishing you as an actor for that role. The fact that received the Best Actor Oscar is a travesty, and it's part of what's wrong with the voting body. The man did not even fucking sing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I will never let it go. He didn't even sing. He basically lip synced a fucking Best Actor performance. Fuck off. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know you love Mr. Robot.
One of my favorite shows.
He was all right in No Time to Die, but I'll even tell you, when I rewatched it, I had a rough time with him. I don't know what
I
it
don't
is,
get
dude.
it. What it is about him, dude? It's because he has a twin, right? And you ever think about twins?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
You don't know if it's him or his brother, really? You can't tell.
I tell you what it honestly is.
It's his eyes.
It's the Pacific.
Yeah.
The first thing I ever saw him in was in the Pacific, when Homeboy is like throwing rocks into the skull of a dead Japanese soldier.
Yeah.
That is filled with like blood and ash and shit. It just very casually. It was like some Apocalypse Now shit all of a sudden in my band of brothers, essentially, that I was like, whoa, the Pacific is different. This is go and play. But that was my introduction to him as a performer. He is very disturbing in that series.
Yeah, he is. I watched that
And
after I watched.
I don't think
Brothers.
I've ever fully recovered from it. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I just fundamentally don't trust that guy.
Well, I'm saying, dude, if you just
Which is
take
why when he
time to-
showed up in this, I was like, there's no way he could be an ally.
Yeah.
There's no way he could. Even when he
It's
was
all but
doing
assured.
it, I was like, I don't trust this coming from Rami Malek. Like, the scientists were upset. Are we sure about this? I don't know.
all of them, like the whole community was.
They were all upset.
Yeah.
Okay.
They didn't like how Strauss was talking about what new news to me. And again,
You shanghaied him.
well, again, you're told that like it's the stuff in front of Congress, but I'm led to believe that it's like, no, it's not that, dude. He's just has no idea what he said to Einstein.
What the hell did you say?
And to make Einstein not want to talk to me, it's like, it had nothing to do with you, bro.
Yeah.
And you don't rate at all. And that's the thing. It's like, you're now realizing here's a man who knows that he'll never rate. He'll never be the godfather of the atomic bomb. But he could probably get on this committee somehow and be important, I guess. He'll be the name. And for him to deliver the thing of like, I gave him what he wanted. He's remembered for the bomb, not for Hiroshima. I did that shit. And this is what happens to me. And like, look what, I'm getting, you've been telling me this entire time, I'm going to be a shoo-in. Okay. Oh, it's okay. So instead now Eisenhower has to be one of like 5 presidents who didn't get somebody in. That it always happens, and it's me and Eisen. Like, you look at this fucking stain on my career.
As soon as again, me knowing none of the background or history of this, but like within the first 30 minutes of the movie, because we're cross-cutting through time and everything, but when they're like, oh, this is totally normal procedure, nobody's ever not been confirmed, I was like, okay, well, he's definitely not
gonna
getting
get it, right.
confirmed. Then I was like, okay. I was like, so how's this gonna play out? And again, for me, I was on the train, and then I was pretty knocked out by the way he handled everything in the midsection, Trinity test, and the dropping of the bomb. And what was weird is I was like, dude, I'm getting more excited, and I was like, I feel like I had the opposite reaction, which some people were like, oh, it just kind of turns into like kind of a courtroom drama, conspiracy sort of thing in the back half. It's a lot of like talking rooms. I was like, the whole movie is talking in rooms. I'm sorry, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But
Some rooms are bigger than others. But no.
I got so like, all right, well, I don't know the rest. I don't
didn't
know
either.
the rest of this story. I don't know where it's going. So I was glued to my seat in the same way that I was in. It's like, I know how all of this plays out. I know, hey, Trinity test, it worked, and I know what happened with the bomb. But I don't know what happened with this guy afterwards and why we've been telling this segment.
Yeah,
in
this
the
is
50s.
the whole
I don't
reason why
know
we're telling it.
why
It's
we're
almost
doing
like
this.
it's the whole reason we're telling this movie. Because what happens to Oppenheimer afterwards when the thing I don't know if it's actually said in the movie, but the thing I've just been like thinking about when we were going to talk about this was like the reason why I think Oppenheimer remains who he is because despite whatever happened to him, the man, while he may morally have not had as much integrity after creating what he created, he never seemed to waver on the idea that like, yeah, I did it. We should not have used it. It's a danger. Like we basically need to like, if we're going to have these, we can have them, but you can't build a hydrogen one. You can't build a bigger one.
Also, we need to have open communication, which
Right.
seems like the biggest taboo is
Right.
suggesting that like, maybe we could talk about this. It's like, well, I don't want to go to the table to have a conversation unless I know I have maybe an H-bomb in my back pocket.
Right.
Like,
I'll let them know about the atom bomb, but I'm not going to tell them about the hydrogen bomb.
okay.
We got, you know?
I didn't mention him because we didn't get to it. Remar coming in for the most stomach churning section of the whole movie to me, even with the visuals that we get when you're in Oppie's head or whatever. The thing that just like the biggest groan in the theater / like just like slightly stifled laughter from people who were like, oh gee, like one of those was the we've reserved Kyoto because of its significance to the Japanese people.
Plus
also, it's where me and my wife honeymooned, and I was just like, you fucking piece of shit, dude.
Yeah.
But Remar absolutely crushes in like 3 minutes, and I was like, dude, it just like they just keep coming.
Yeah.
And I was just like, dude, he's perfect. And of course, I'm sorry, I also can't like when he comes in that role that I've seen him in a thousand movies, I am also just like, oh, Pineapple Express, like that's what I mean.
Right.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I mean,
ultimately, you're always like, we mentioned it with Nixon. There are plenty of historical figures that we can point to, and we can say, you know, they deserve this biopic. It's interesting with them. You know, one of my favorite ones up until now was James Mangold directed Walk the Line. Do we really need to know that? No. Johnny Cash, yes, great song, contributing to American Song, but like, Johnny Cash didn't build a thing that could destroy Homo sapiens, that could wipe us off the face of this earth, okay? And to that point,
I mean, if that's the standard we're holding everybody to, okay.
This is the only biopic you make. But it's like I sent you that thing after I got gas. Like, just so you know, Marshall Larkin, there's only two people. Now there's two people. It's Baz Luhrmann and...
Oh, Christ. That can't be the other one.
No, it's not. But like, yeah, I mean, if you wanted maybe like pretend that Bruce Wayne was like a real dude, then maybe you could say, yeah, he's already made 3 biopics. But knowing this subject matter and what it means, I don't think in our modern time, with us being consumed with like, oh, Elon Musk is taking over Twitter and this guy Zuckerberg made Facebook, I don't think we think and we put enough emphasis on men who did give us things that like, because like, I think I've said this before, the AI that has been tasked with trying to kill us has come back and said, I couldn't get into any nukes. I couldn't get into any nukes or any missiles. I think I'm going to go to social media and I'm going to turn you against each other. That's my next move, you know? So it's like, we're focused on like, what's Elon doing? What's Bezos doing? All this stuff. And we forget that last century, there was a man who was put in charge of a project to make a weapon that we had no idea what it was going to do. We had all these theories, but until we actually made it and it worked, did we realize, oh, fuck, we should have done this. We got to put it back in the box. And you can never put what's in Pandora's box back in the box, you know? And that is one of those things that, like, you can graft onto any story. Because, just follow me here, with what's happened with social media and everything in the last 20 years, you could make an Oppenheimer-esque movie about someone creating Facebook. Again, that's not the story of Facebook. I mean, but you could do it.
It's called The Social Network.
Yeah, they did.
It's
but like,
one of the best movies of the last 20 years.
Right, but I don't think it doesn't hold that angle of like, I shouldn't have done this. I should put it back in the box. It holds the angle of I did it and I just did it. And like, I'm here I am, you know? I don't feel any sort of regret. I don't feel there's any remorse from him for doing what he did. Why would he have any? No.
but that's not the aim of that.
Right, that's not the aim of the movie.
What the movie's saying.
But it's not that story. That's not that story in
in
general. I don't think he regrets making Facebook at all or losing some friends over it. I think he wants the credit. He got the credit, and now he's having to live with it, with being one of like 7 people who control what you see on the internet. You know, so there's that, and there may be a time where like we get. I don't think we ever will, but there could be a time in the future where it's not those 7 people. It's regulated by a higher power. I don't think it'll ever get there. I don't know how you could regulate it any better, but that's the point of like the second half after the Trinity test is like, who's in charge of regulating what we do with this thing? Are we going to give it to the guy that made it? Well, yeah, we might. Well, wait a minute. I don't like that he said this shit about me. I'm going to get rid of his security clearance. Well, yeah, it's going to be kind of hard. I can do it. Don't worry. I got friends. I know people. I know how to play the game in politics. I'm a shit scientist. You know, I never was good. Oh, I trained in engineering, but like, I'm a politician. I'm not a scientist. And
right.
You know, so again, it's almost like it's trying to tell you, you know, you really, if you didn't have this little end on the back with this guy trying to like dick over this dude over like a perceived slight, maybe we all know Oppenheimer's story. Maybe there's more books written about him. Maybe there's more things. But as we're turning in the latter half of the 50s into the 60s and whatnot, he's being like picked apart and doesn't help us do anything else scientifically. And he just kind of, I think he went down to like the Virgin Islands or like St. John's for a while. He had some very, you know, when he did come out in public and like talk about anything, he was very careful with what he did and said in the latter half of his life and all that. Mm-hmm. But he still remains one of these people that's like, you can't really fault him for doing what he did because of his realization after what he did of like, I probably shouldn't have done this. And I told myself I should have. It's my fault. I'm not just going to live with it. I have to, but I'm not just going to sit back and live with it. I'm going to do what I think I can, anything I can, to try and talk to people about it and make them aware of like, we should never use this. The only thing we should do, if you're going to do anything, make more of what we have so we have more than them, so that we're at this stalemate of like,
right,
you won't use them and we won't use them. We all know what can happen. And that's why I think it's brilliant that the movie ends with like the Earth essentially being eviscerated by this like, you know, nuclear explosion, because we've seen it since the beginning, the swirls of the lights and the dots and everything. When you've that one shot of the bomb of the, you know, the test explosion where you're in the flame, but you're still seeing what we've seen in his mind's eye or like whatever of how he sees the world. That was probably the most beautiful shot to me, because it's like, yeah, of course. He's always known somewhere in the depths of his brain that's what this is going to do. He's not 100% sure, but he knows that this is kind of what he's going to see whenever this bomb goes off, you know. But I also think you could have just fucking subbed in the end of Doctor Strangelove and it still would have been just as cool, you know.
Would have been a bold move.
Colorize him. That's it. Just put them in color, and that's that. That's the only money you spend on CGI. Is just like retrofitting those to be in color, and that's that.
Very, very effective movie.
Yes.
One of the best of the year. It definitely won't be the last time we talk about it. It will be up for all sorts of awards, I am sure. I do just want to say one time, just to close out at the end, we've said the name Oppenheimer a lot, but we've only said Cillian Murphy like 2 or 3 times.
Yes.
I was very excited when he was announced as the lead of this, just as a fan of him for many, many years.
Yes.
And it's just, I don't know, it's one of those weird things to be like, oh, I root for this person that I don't even know. But
yeah,
ever since 28 Days Later, we've just been like, that's one of our dudes. And he's never, ever anything less than super compelling and awesome to watch. And I think this is like his like definitive performance. And again, I think it's so good, and you underestimate. It's like he is practically at the center of the frame for 3 fucking hours, and like all of these big capital M movie stars orbiting around him, but it's all in service of his central performance. And at the end of the day, I'm like, he's the one you never take your fucking eyes off of, even with this whole cavalcade of stars around him. He's just completely magnetic and completely enigmatic, which is exactly what you need. I'm sitting there for 3 hours trying to read the performance of like, well, what is he thinking? How does he actually like feel about this ultimately on the inside? Not what he's necessarily putting out there, but like, how does he really feel about this in his soul? And he holds you with those fucking piercing blue eyes stuck in that question for 3 fucking hours. And so does the incredible fucking Ludwig Göransson score. And this is also, oh my god, her name escapes me. This is one of the best edited movies
definitely.
I have ever seen. But even in the Nolan catalog, which are very much known for their... let me look her up. I'm pretty sure I'm correct about this.
I guess
Jennifer Lame, who also... Let me just take you through her...
Please do.
Okay. Oh, cut her teeth on a lot of Baumbach movies, which is interesting. He co-wrote Barbie, which is relevant. But she edited Manchester by the Sea, Tyrell, Hereditary, Marriage Story, Tenet, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and now Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer, obviously. Yeah. Oh, holy shit. Worked as apprentice editor on Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, the Sidney Lumet movie. She's been around for a while, but yeah, probably her most high-profile thing. Also worked on Midsommar, Judas and the Black Messiah, Don't Worry, Darling, and Blonde as an additional editor. So, yeah, she crushed it. Great job. Yeah, go see it if you haven't seen it. I doubt you listen to this conversation if you haven't seen it. I would hope you
didn't, yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was, again, an appropriately, like, tonally hit the mark for what I thought this needed to be, and is one that I definitely I've thought about a lot since I left it. It has stuck with me.
You know who I want? You know who I really want their opinion on this movie of?
Who's that?
I want Hideo Kojima's opinion.
I was trying to figure out a way to work him into the conversation, because when we were talking about Lynch earlier, I was like, to me, the kind of 3 signature artists of this era that have done content surrounding this that I think is relevant. Hideo's the other one that comes to mind, which I always think there's been this weird conversation, but like, I've never heard Nolan talk about him publicly, but I know Hideo is a big fan of him. Right. But again, there was parts of Tenet where I was like, some of these sequences are like the closest thing I'll get to like seeing a Kojima movie like in live action.
Almost like he was flirting with him on the movie, like, hey, I see you, I know. Honestly, I'm a fan, but I'm not going to come out and say it. I'm not going to come out.
There were elements of that, and that's when I kind of clicked in with Tenet, where I was like, dude, imagine Hideo wrote this dialogue, right? And it was in a video game, not in a summer blockbuster. Yeah. You would just be rolling with it. Why are you putting up this weird like barrier? I was like, just imagine Hideo wrote this movie, and every time I rewatch it, I like it more and more. And you're going to tell me that like that final sequence with the temporal pincer movement and the way they're dressed is not like, he has to have played a Metal Gear game at some point.
Or seen a kid of his play it or something.
You said you never played 5, correct?
No, I have Ground Zeroes and 5 on top of the PS5 waiting to start any day.
I don't know if you know about this big gambit in 5, which was the whole base building mechanic.
Yeah, you build the base, and then if everybody got rid of their nukes, you would get like a certain...
He built a whole asynchronous multiplayer mechanic around the idea of, I can't manifest nuclear disarmament in the real world. Let me see if I put it in the hands of people who have been playing my games for decades at this point, where I have made so many impassioned pleas for like the tearing down of the military-industrial complex. As much as I make it look cool as shit in all of this, the kind of core of every one of those games is that war is terrible and we need to stop doing it to each other. Okay? And he builds in this whole mechanic where
1963 he's born.
Yeah.
Not even.
Oh, absolutely, in the shadow of it. And he's talked about it very much. I'm very curious, and I know he saw it. He's very active on Instagram. But he doesn't write long form on his social media. He pretty much just like posts pictures of, this is what I'm doing in my life. I know he has seen it, but yes, I would be so fascinated to hear what he thinks of it, and maybe we'll get an interview at some point. But yeah, like Phantom Pain builds this whole mechanic around what if my online community, essentially, of these players had the ability to collectively decide to do nuclear disarmament.
Yeah.
And guess what? It didn't fucking work.
Yeah, of course.
And it's and I have to imagine it's like, yes, he probably hoped like, oh, this would like be a beautiful statement, but I do remember checking in on it, like, you know, into the lifetime of that game, and no, it had only gotten worse, where people were like hoarding them and like invading each other's bases, and like there were some crusaders who were like, no, I'm trying to like take this person's base out so that I can disarm their stuff. But it was like, you know, there was good and bad actors, but ultimately we couldn't get everybody on the same page of like, if we all just do it at the same time, like same time, we're good.
And if you can't get a bunch of nerds in their basement to do it, how the hell are you going to get heads of state to do it? It's a sad sentiment.
Yeah. Fascinating. Again, the fact that was in a video game, and the fact that we're talking about a movie that was released as ostensibly a summer blockbuster that is a 3-hour talky-ass biopic
about the guy who made the A-bomb. And then spent the rest of his life trying not to have an H-bomb built.
Yeah, I guess my biggest thing I'm saying is like,
what else do we have to make movies about?
No, I'm just saying, can we do more things in this vein? Can we put more money into like, I miss these movies. A big old splashy historical drama about a complicated figure that I don't know much about. Lay it on me, dude.
Yeah.
With somebody who has
but it's somehow like a defining figure in like human, like the race Homo sapien, like walking, talking upright, not on your knuckles, complex thought, all that. This dude, this guy, gave them the ability to blow themselves up. Okay? It took 1,945 years or so, give or take. I don't remember the exact year it was made. I know when it was dropped, not when they actually... So I'm assuming like 44, 45. It took that many years for a human to figure out how to end us. And it's amazing that it hasn't happened yet. And I hope that I never live to see it happen. Because again, you said there were people who were upset that they didn't get to see it. And in my mind, I'm like, dude, if you've seen Terminator 2, you've seen
people weren't saying that outright, but the way they were dancing around saying that they were disappointed was fascinating to read. And here's the thing,
you don't have to be disappointed. You can come out and say, like, dude, you know, if you'd actually, if we'd watched a
Where's the money shot, bro?
Dude, think about it.
There's definitely people who had that reaction.
But here's the thing. How do we know that a Chris Nolan nuclear Hiroshima Holocaust money shot, how do we know that tomorrow everybody's at the table? You know what? We got to think twice about them. I'm going to get rid of them. You want to get rid of them? Yeah. Did you see Oppenheimer? Yeah, I saw Oppenheimer. Yeah, we should totally get rid of them. Like, even Russia comes in. It's like, yeah, we saw it, and we think we ought to get rid of them. Like, how do we not know that the way he would actually capture that? I mean, he probably has no desire to. Probably made it. He probably said, you know what? It's funny that this guy got mad at him for a snub. I'm going to start the movie about this. Who gives a shit? Like, I'll tell you all the other stuff you got to know. But isn't it crazy that this dude that did this something this monumental, this guy's just pissed off at him because he said some shit about him in Congress and spent the rest of his days.
So it's really just another movie about directors hating critics.
Right.
He's just pissed off about people not liking Tenet, and he's trying to remind them about I made The Dark Knight.
That's what I said at the beginning. This is his makeup for Tenet.
Son of a bitch. He really had me fooled. Mm-hmm. I thought he'd really grown as a filmmaker.
Yeah. I thought he knew how smart I was.
You know what? Tarantino loves feet. Christopher Nolan loves not writing three-dimensional women. So maybe we just have to let it go that like that's your thing, dude. That's your one glaring flaw that everybody points out every time out, and you just like, maybe I guess you just start leaning into it. But yeah. I guess I bring it the main reason I brought it up is I was just like, it's the one thing people harp on him about constantly. Like basically since inception. But the dead wife thing. Of just like, he doesn't know how to like have a woman unless they're just like a catalyst for
or they're batshit crazy.
I mean, yeah, there's that threat too. I rewatched Insomnia, and in my head I was like, dude, that was Hilary Swank like coming off of Boys Don't Cry. Like that's the third lead in that movie. And then I rewatched it and I was like, she has like 2 scenes.
Right.
And again, I give that one a little bit of a pass because it's a remake, and I don't know how that character was
What
presented
about like
in the first
Carrie Ann
one.
Moss in Memento? Do we not think she's not dimensional enough?
That's great. And you know who co-wrote that movie?
Who?
Jonathan Nolan, his brother, who also wrote on Westworld, which has some pretty fantastic female characters. I'm just saying.
You got Teddy Newton. You got no complaints.
I feel like when they went their separate ways, he doesn't have all the juice on his own. Maybe they need to get back together. I was just saying. I don't know.
Just to write, not to direct, just to write.
I also think he could just let somebody else write one of these bad boys. Period. Not that I thought this was a bad script in any way. I want to point that out. Okay. We liked it a lot. Now, if we can transition from arguably the most important figure in American history, we'll talk about the actual most important figure in American history, Mr. Thomas Cruise Mapother.
Thomas Cruise Mapother, yes.
Who did release a movie, goddammit. He has one too.
You know what Cillian Murphy...
Don't let anybody forget it.
You know what Cillian Murphy didn't do? He didn't throw himself off a goddamn cliff 6 times just for you.
He sure didn't.
You know what? Chris Nolan, Cillian Murphy, they didn't come up before the movie and say, "Hey, we had a great time making this. We did it just for you."
Weird.
Oppenheimer was a very complicated man, but we feel we've got him on the screen, and please enjoy. We didn't hear any of that shit. We were just like, and the movie starts. So yeah, maybe a little bit. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning.
Before I saw either of these movies, this before we get into Dead Rec, sorry, but before I saw Barbie or Oppenheimer, I think I was talking to our good friend Sunshine Mayfield, and I was like, dude, you know, it'd be really wild if I went in tomorrow and they were totally flipped. Like, the Oppenheimer movie was this like metatextual satire about American consumerism, but still about the same subject matter. And the Barbie movie was a dark meditation about the nature of humanity and like all. I was like, what if that tonally they are actually flipped and we don't know it yet?
Right.
And I think that would be kind of fun. And I look forward to the SNL sketch that is a bastardized version of what I just described, because
it's just the movie Barbenheimer. That's all it's going to be.
I know, but the way that they do it is like it's going to seem like a great, like, oh, what a great concept, but they're not going to fully execute on it. But I look forward to watching it anyways. Yeah. Okay. Dead Rec, Part 1. This is going to be a bit of a truncated conversation.
Yeah,
but
we talked about it at the opening, but I mean, it's still up there, dude. Okay. I'm still excited.
Well, the whole reason here is to knock out our categories. We gave our rough thoughts. We fucking loved it. It was great. It was a great time at the movies. It was. I was on a cloud afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a great time with it. I'm gonna go back before it leaves theaters. Okay. I want to see it one more time.
Yeah.
In reassessing, now that we've had some distance from it, I've listened to a couple podcasts on it. I've relived the movie emotionally. I got to see this baby again, man.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to go back a second time. I think I'm gonna, not that I bumped on hardly anything, but I think it's just gonna. I can't wait. I also just can't wait to have this one on Paramount Plus where I can just rewatch it over and over again.
We don't have to talk stunts. We know what that major one with that is. Let's get into best boy on the team. Who we going with the team?
We had some highlight moments for pretty much everybody.
Right.
Okay. Benji gets the bomb defusal where he's like, the answer is friendship.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
that was so good.
Mm-hmm.
Luther gets like, really nails the emotional. Okay, we couldn't talk about it. I forgot.
Yeah.
So
Gloves are off.
Spoilers are
Let's
off.
go.
My big. It's been controversial. I've seen a lot of people. Some people came out on the other side. Some people are very anti this. I knew it was going to be divisive in the fandom. They killed Ilsa Faust.
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of knew they were going to do it. We said as much. Yeah. We were like, if you really want to have a punch, you do that, because it's like the lost potential. It's like Benji would be a gut punch. Luther is almost off the table, where it's like we riot. Like, you need to end the series if you do that.
But you can't do anything without Luther and his skills.
Right.
Benji was kind of the guy in the van for a minute, but it's obvious like he's got to be the guy with the tech on the ground, while Luther is always going to be the guy in the van.
Absolutely.
So
that's kind of the biggest sticking point for a lot of people. And I was basically what you hear me saying on that live reaction is, I was like, all right, I'm enjoying Grace. I'm enjoying the Haley Atwell character.
Mm-hmm.
But when I basically had pieced together, I was like, oh shit, we're definitely going to kill Ilsa. I immediately had that reaction of just like, dude, you're just going to sub her in here? Like, we really can't have more than one brunette. Like, they really can't have, like, multiple females in the cast on the team. Like, we're really going to do this shit, and you're just going to expect me to just, like, let her in and be as into it as I was? Like, I'm like,
what is this, a Christopher Nolan movie?
I'm like, exactly. I'm like, we've had 2 movies with Ilsa, dude. Like, give me a fucking break here. And then...
It doesn't matter.
And then fucking McQuarrie...
Yeah.
Works his little screenplay magic, and they give Ving a few lines, and they give Tom a few reaction shots to play, and they do this scene where they kind of bring the whole fucking movie together, and I'm like, oh shit, I've been watching her origin story this whole time, didn't even realize it.
Yep.
And it's that moment, like I said it to you in the parking lot, but she's like, why did you save me? Who am I to you, essentially? You don't know me.
Doesn't matter.
And it's just like, it doesn't matter. And Luther gets that great bit of, she's like, were you very close, referring to Ilsa? And he's like, in our way. And you're just like, dude, that's what I fucking love about these movies. Is like, I don't imagine them all like hanging out, having a beer. But I also imagine that like when they're on the job together, like these people are fucking bond. And in a way that I don't know, I just buy it more than I do in some bullshit family way that like Fast and the Furious wants to present it to me, where I'm just like, no, I feel like just through the organic plot of these movies and the time we spent with these characters, I just like these people. I like this crew. I like hanging out with them. I'm invested in them. I worry when they're in peril, even though I kind of in the back of my head, I'm always like, it's gonna work out okay.
We'll figure it out
until it doesn't. And again, so it assuaged my fears, and they really, by the time they get to the end of this, and it being like a beginning, middle, and end for the Grace character of like, okay, now she can be part of the team in part 2. I'm totally in. I buy it. It's a different dynamic. And again, it's hard for me to not be like, Rebecca Ferguson's in super high demand. They probably needed to write her out of this in a certain way. Like maybe this could, and I know that these movies are somewhat written on the fly. Yeah. Like they've been very upfront about that. And I think they needed a big death. And ultimately it works because they earned it in what is the best type of these sequences you can do to me, which is one where I'm like, oh no, it's coming. I know it's going to happen. Don't happen. No. And just wringing as much tension of that as you can, because it's one of the best sequences where the entity, which the more and more I think about it, dude, I know people think this is like a cheat code for the screenplay and it just like it's yada yada. I think it's such a fucking cool concept for a Mission Impossible movie, and for the metatextual reading of like it is Tom Cruise versus AI. It's just fun, dude. It's just fun. It's the like I'm the savior of fucking movies, and now I'm gonna use my franchise entertainment to save you all from the downfall of AI, which seems very ironic.
Why can't you just use the church to stop the strike, Tom? Come on, buddy. That's what we're striking over right now. It's AI versus you. I know you're in SAG.
I love Trejo on the side. He's like, we can't all be Tom Cruise. Like, yeah, I know, Danny.
Yeah,
I know. He's like, I'm over here. I got a taco stand. I'm making hot sauces. I got my Instagram. I'm like, I did 5 movies this year before the strike,
But like, he's got to have it somewhere. Like, it's got to be somewhere. Like, he's got to be banking stuff. I can't imagine that nobody has stepped in and said, hey, let me manage that for you, Danny.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He's just the face.
But at the same time, like, I don't think Tom Cruise is doing this for the money. He's doing this for love of the game, baby. I mean, he gets to do...
Oh, absolutely.
You could... I'm willing to bet you if they were like, you don't get a dime, no salary, but we'll pay you in whatever, metric, whatever, points on the back end of whatever you make in China or something. I don't think he'd give a shit. It's like, you green light the budget, I'm good. Yeah, I'll work for free. Put my money into the movie. I don't give a shit. That motherfucker loves movies. And that's the one. I sometimes I have my question, like just thinking about it, like what we just talked about, is like, I don't really know if like Christopher Nolan loves movies. He likes films, but like Tom Cruise loves movies, because movies, those things don't always go to theaters, but films do. So like,
I would actually argue that's the constant tension of Nolan, is him warring between, I love movies, but I also love films.
Right.
I think that's the kind of the crux of him, where he can't just admit how much he likes movies.
right.
He's got to be too into films or cinema.
So his next movie needs to be
Which is partly,
Tom
again,
Cruise having a conversation with Soderbergh about movies and films.
I was going to say, that is the ultimate, could we get them together? But I don't think it would work at all.
Why don't you think so? You think it's just too big?
I think 100%. I think it's too big. I think that's the that would be the equivalent now of when Tommy hooked up with Spielberg in the Minority Report era.
Okay, let me ask
That's
you
what
this.
that would be. That would be, I'm coming to play with you, but I'm kind of surrendering myself. Kind of the last time he ever did that, but that's still on the back end of the PTA and the Kubrick experiences. I'm just saying. And I don't think you ever get him. I don't think until he crosses over into like true old man territory are you ever going to get another I surrender myself. I think it is the Tom show. And that's why there's only a certain amount of people allowed in that orbit. And right now it's Joseph Kosinski.
Right.
It's fucking McHugh, and I guess Doug Liman is still kind of allowed in there. But that's it.
So,
it's those three guys, because those are three guys he can own. It's like, no, you're never gonna tell me like, oh, but I want to do it this way. Like you're, But he can't do that with Christopher Nolan.
Right. Well, see, here's my question though.
And Christopher Nolan, I don't think would kowtow to a Tom
Probably
Cruise.
not. But let's say the entity.
I don't think he goes in for that shit.
Let's say the entity tells him, Tom, you want the golden statue, don't you? You gotta give
That's
yourself.
the way to do it.
That's the only outcome. If I'm looking at every algorithm using the entity to process all this shit, it's Nolan Cruise
Equals
Oscar.
Best Actor.
Best actor. The illusion, the thing that's eluded him his entire career.
He's already worked with Scorsese, so I was gonna say, yeah, it's definitely not going back to the Scorsese well. PTA and him are estranged. I feel like post-Master, whether they talk about it or not. I've just always assumed it was like, oh, you made tangential fun of my boy, like
made fun of my church,
my dad.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, that movie's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just sitting over here thinking about the Master for a minute.
But again, it's like,
sorry,
he's but again, it's one of those, like, you're there for him.
we're sitting here. Yeah, we got totally lost on Dead Right. We fucking loved it. Obviously, you said the bike set piece. You almost wrote it off like we don't need to pick one. Here's my thing, though. We talked about this a little bit afterwards. We all knew the bike stunt was coming, and it's buried pretty deep in the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't know that train shit was coming. Now, I did watch a trailer afterwards where I realized they show you all of that, but I had not seen any of that set piece yet. So that was a total surprise for me. And I thought...
I knew we were going to get on a train.
The whole experience of the train, the fighting on top, the interior stuff, the cat and mouse, the face mask, and then when it goes off, like... I thought the whole third act was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
Pretty glorious. Shea Wiggum and Tarzan, just like...
Yeah.
These guys are always going rogue. The meta shooting.
Dude,
shit,
yeah, it's so perfect.
Loved it.
What did you think of this being the first time that a villain has gotten away? I mean, I get the entity is the villain, but like the metaphysical dude, bad dude, Richie Valens' brother, like he
Well, it's on pause because I feel like
he got away. Like he's not dead.
But this is part one.
Right, but like I'm saying, like we enter with old boy killing girl in the music thing, and by the end of the movie that guy's in the same box Tom Cruise was in, and he's done. Right. We haven't had a villain move from movie to movie.
Yes, but we also haven't had a part one, part two yet.
Right, but like we had female move from movie to movie with Elsa. Yeah. 1, 2, 3 movie. We never had a villain go 1, 2. So like what I'm asking is, did you expect that with it being a part one? Or were you thinking like, well, once I know it's the entity, like if dude dies, I could give a shit.
I knew he wasn't going to kill him.
Yeah, he can't. Because
Because
he knows what it unlocks.
Well, also because he's Ethan Hunt and Luther told him not to, and I was like, he's just not going to do it.
Yeah.
Like, so I knew that was off the table. But I mean, I knew it in the moment. I was like, he's going to pocket the key. Like, we're going to win. We're going to win.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to get a win
dude.
for a second. But
you can't have that whole scene in the airport where they're constantly pickpocketing each other and not have that be the reveal. I also just feel like the backstory is still intentionally vague enough that I feel like there's another shoe to drop in part 2 where we get just a little bit more of what that was and who Marie, I forget what they call her, but whoever that woman was to him, I feel like we're not done with that fully. Yeah, and so therefore we're not going to fully close the book on Gabriel. But I also think part 2 could open up and we think it's going to be this big thing, and it's actually a fake out, and Gabriel like gets iced out in the opening, maybe by somebody else who's just like, the entity's using this guy now, and surprise, surprise, and now Ethan doesn't get his catharsis of bringing him in. I don't know, but I didn't think too much about it beyond, I was just like, well, he's been established as like, this is the dude, the entity needs him because it's like, this would be his greatest adversary from an emotional perspective. Yeah. So this is the guy I've chosen to go up against him. And so all that tracked for me, and I was just like, oh, they live to fight another day. I didn't think too much of it. Okay. Did do you think he's the ultimate? I guess that's the other thing is like... It feels a little cheaty to me, honestly.
That he didn't...
No, it feels a little cheaty that we're just doing this now, and like, it's this dude. Because, like, he's not physically imposing.
You didn't like the retrofitting him into the backstory?
I would, if you're going to retrofit anything, just tell me Jim Phelps didn't die. Just tell me he made it off that helicopter and was able to, like,
Do we really want Voight back in these movies, though?
Doesn't have to be Voight. It could be anybody. He's going to have aged severely by now. He'll be decrepit.
Sure.
Give me Voight. Not Voight the actor. Give me Jim Phelps as decrepit Gary Oldman from Hannibal. You can't recognize it. He's been pulling the fucking strings the entire time.
Okay.
Throwing all these dudes. He is the head of the syndicate. Who created the syndicate?
We talked about this, and again, if it didn't play for you, it didn't play for you. But I felt like the reaching back to a pre-IMF Ethan was to kind of do this tandem echo of what's going on with Grace.
Right.
So that's why it worked for me and didn't feel like a cheat to bring him in or like add this emotional weight to it. Now I do agree. It's like, so we had this whole emotional arc with the Michelle Monaghan character and her being in peril in 3. We make our peace with it by the end of Fallout,
where she was in peril again.
We kind of put that to bed. Mm-hmm. We have Ilsa, who we now really like and care about. It seems like there's something happening with them. I do get the like. Maybe it's a little excessive to introduce yet another brunette, Emmanuel Bear from the first one's a brunette. Like, I mean, just like, there, is it BioShock? There's always a lighthouse. There's always a brunette who has to die. I don't know. But it just, I get it on that level of like, it's kind of an easy cheat code.
Do you think the brunette always dying is like a code for something about his first wife? Because Mimi Rogers was a brunette, right?
I don't know.
Could be. You got to dig deep with these. You never know what it could be. That's my thing. And like, again, love the movie, but like.
So Gabriel didn't totally work for you, or the retrofitting, you didn't like that?
I don't like what it posits is that literally I could go to my car tonight and somebody could come up to me and be like, hey, hold on to this. And eventually you're going to have to take this choice. Are you in or are you not? A man will come and see you and you can choose to accept or not accept, and he just runs off. It just the framing of like how people got into the IMF, and I get that they frame it. And
that's what I was saying is I think it's I filled in my own backstory, but again I took it as Ethan was like probably a pickpocket or a thief of some sort, just because he's good with sleight of hand, which we echo in the movie.
But
hold on, This is my headcanon. I'm not saying this is what the movie presents to you.
Well, no, because the first one says, like, oh, Jim, you were on a recruiting thing, Cushy Hotel, whatever, as if to say that, like, Jim Phelps recruited me somehow. So unless this incident with that is like such, because the way that it's like, the way that it's given to me, it makes me think that either, like, you know, he was pushed into doing this and, like, you know, he lost somebody, an innocent, and now he won't ever forgive himself. So he decided to take the oath. Maybe he didn't want to. He was going to just do this thing for whatever, get out. Never was going to say no, was going to say, no, I'm not doing this. I'm doing this one thing and I'm gone. Or just something that, like, I wasn't given enough of what the other life was to feel the weight and to feel like, okay, I get it. I mean, this is going to sound like bullshit. You could have told me that, like, they were like fucking the system. They were going up as just two dudes, pickpockets, hackers, whatever dudes, using their skills to get one over on somebody, and he got double crossed. But the thing that sells me on him as like a villain, because I don't mind him as the villain, is when, how many times you ever heard Ethan yell, abort, get out? You haven't in anything since the first one, and this is the first time.
As he sees him, yeah.
He's like, nope, we're done. Get the fuck out of here now. Don't follow me. Get out. Go. Because whoever that woman was, that experience was that traumatizing to him, you know? And I don't know if it needed to be a different person. I don't know if I needed to know exactly who he was, other than he's just from another life. But I like the actor, Isai Morales, is that his name? I like him. Think he's great and everything. He certainly gives you that with, like, how elegant and smooth he is and how he can kind of glide in and out and, like, is quote unquote all knowing. And as soon as he realizes, well, he isn't at the end, and he's like, you know, fuck, I think I messed up. Like, okay, I get it. Like, he peeds on that level too. But it's just, I guess I would have loved to have a cold open, because we waited a minute for the fuse to get lit in this, right?
Definitely the longest.
Right.
Like,
so if you're gonna do that, keep it the same runtime, but give me whatever caused Ethan to do that. Give me that as my cold open. Even if it's not that, you don't have to make it that long, but make it look like it's something that's nowadays. Date it subtly without telling me it's 10, 20, 30 years ago. Have it happen, and then don't tell me about it, right? So that when he shows up again, you're like, dude, that was the guy from earlier. And then you let him explain, hey, that was a past life. So we've seen the dude, we've seen what happened to Ethan, we see his gut raw reaction of, oh my God, no, I've lost this woman. So we already know he doesn't like losing women, but we already established early on he lost a woman. Maybe he's never gotten over it. If we're setting that up because you're going to lose another woman, wouldn't you rather have that emotional punch in the first part to kind of reel you in to be like, okay, I guess you're telegraphing it now, but if I didn't know by now, I do know that it's not about, oh, I got to get her because I got to save her, whatever. It doesn't matter what level he is to her. You save any life you can, and any loss of life is not acceptable, especially if it's a woman, and especially if it's a woman that you kind of care about more than just, I just bumped into you on the street, you know? Because the thing I did buy in 3, I totally bought that he was hard down in love with Michelle Monaghan, and he was ready to give up this life, quote unquote, to be with her.
I've seen some people where they're like, oh, they could have made it as simple as that, but I'm like, but they already kind of put that character to bed, so it's like bringing her back in. I get it's weird. I still, and I could be totally wrong about this, but I just don't think we're done with that. I don't think we're fully done with that backstory and how he.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope we get. I want more. Things. Yeah, that's what I want.
But again, my headcanon was just like, the IMF, the recruiting that you're talking about is they kind of have their feelers out for like, oh, this person hacked this, or like, they're kind of waiting in the wings because, they operate in the shadows. And so when somebody pops on their radar, like, oh, they got picked up for this by the FBI or Interpol or whatever, then, an IMF guy gets sent out and he kind of casually is like, oh, give me 5 minutes in the room when we talk to this guy. And they present him with the choice of like, hey, facing some serious charges, blah, blah, blah. That all being my headcanon of how this works, I was like, Gabriel was a dude they were looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Tom's, again, in my head, like a pickpocket, a low-level criminal, a con artist, probably smooth or whatever. He, you know...
The IMF stumbles upon him because they're looking at Gabriel kind of thing?
Yeah, because he gets in with what I assumed was Gabriel's woman.
Yeah.
In some capacity, and the classic, like, oh, you know...
Revenge, Kevin Costner. We got it.
Exactly, 100%. That's that. In that flashback, that's the dynamic I put on all of this.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but that's what I thought was going on.
In my head, for a split second, I thought it was Sarah from the first one. The woman looked kind of like her. I was like, oh, is he going to stab her like she was Jean Reno?
Again, they could recut it in such a way where, you know, I don't know. But I don't know. I didn't bump on it too bad. I agree. I think the move towards them not bringing in like a big, heavy, like somebody you would traditionally expect, is again another just kind of solid move in the direction of like, these movies are about the team.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, buried beneath all of that is like, nobody can really be bigger than Tom in here, like, ever again. I think that's why you're never going to see a PSA. I feel like he knew we needed Phil in 3 to like, what's the one thing we haven't really had in this franchise so far? A fucking killer villain. Like, nobody's really done a killer villain recently. We got one. All right, I'm gonna get the best actor of his generation to come play the bad guy, and I think he did it. It's like the core of what kind of elevated that movie beyond it just being like super solid and really well executed. Is like, you can also point to, dude, come on, Owen Davian. Like, you know, I don't know what he wanted exactly, but
he was just inconvenienced.
He wanted it.
He was inconvenienced.
Exactly.
That's all. The only reason is because you stuck him out of a plane, and you know, he basically was like, I hold grudges.
Yeah.
Just like RDJ.
Exactly. So, we got lost in the sauce on team members. Can I give it to somebody who's not official yet?
Sure.
I really like Paris Palm Clementif.
Oh yeah.
I think she's gonna be on the good side next time. I think
You
they're
got
gonna
me.
pull
You
Fast
got
and Furious
to.
with
You
her.
You can't say, oh, she still got a pulse, and not have her come back. Like, what's the whole point of that line if you're just gonna let her die?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah,
but
I could see that.
But no, actual team member. I don't know. What'd you think about Luther, like, literally packing his shit up, like, before the third act, where he's just like, y'all about to go do the physical stuff. I gotta check it out.
I gotta be later. A place where the entity can't find me.
Yeah.
It's like, are you getting all your offshore accounts in order and just gonna tip off and just go down to the Bahamas and hang? Because, like, you know we're fucked?
I think we're gonna put Luther on ice for a little bit, and we're gonna take a chunk of part 2, and we're gonna kind of be like, yo, where's he at, to the point where you forget about him, and he's gonna swoop in and do some cool shit. What I would like to see before this franchise is over, just because the man's been behind a desk for a long time, I want to see Ving Rhames rack a fucking shotgun and take out a few guys who are trying to come in. Yes, I want that energy from the basement at Zed's. I just want do it.
Step aside, Butch. Step aside, Ethan.
Dude. But no, I'm like, before the franchise is over, can we let Luther Stickle just let loose with the sawed off?
I want the next one to open. I want the next one to open, and this is what's going to happen to him. It opens on the back of his bald head with a Band-Aid, right? Okay. The best fucking performance of the back of a head you've ever fucking seen. The other one was Pulp Fiction, and it was him. So that, and I like the idea, because it's like, yeah, I'm manipulating you, but like, what if the next time we hear from Luther, it's not Luther, it's the entity?
That could be very.
Luther.
That was one of my.
That was a bit here.
Yeah,
with Benji and all that, but to the point that, like, he said he's going off to be able to help you, and he goes off, and you know, the entity might have heard that. And so the entity is slowly waiting. And the minute that you jack back in to, like, see what's going on, Ethan, I need you to come here. Like, I'm staying at this place. And the entity can keep Luther from getting in touch with him, you know. But it
Yeah.
becomes this whole cat and mouse thing of like, is this the real Luther talking to me? And maybe it's only like a 30-minute bit. You don't run it too long. But it's one of those where like, okay, you couldn't trust what you might see AI wise. Now you can't trust like who's who human wise because like, am I really getting this phone call or this text? Is this what the entity wants me to think? Oh, you can like really dive into that more, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think it is fitting. Like everything we have been talking about lately, it is all AI. It's what this whole strike with everybody's about. It's what, I mentioned, we set up an AI to see if we could figure out how to try and kill us as a species. So I kind of feel like this is weird to say because when is 3? 3's like 2000, right?
2006?
Yeah. Okay. When is Ghost Probe?
2011?
Right. Okay. So
that
maybe
right?
the only thing they kind of miss. Well, it's weird. I have this theory. It's super stupid, but like I just have this theory of like you can't. We don't have boogeymen anymore. Like after May 2011, and then following that, you really don't have like a. I mean, I guess we're trying to make Vladimir Putin that, but like once we find Osama. Once Hussein's gone, once Muammar Gaddafi's dead, there's no like weird Middle Eastern threat to us. Obviously ISIS became a thing, but that's not a dude. That's like a group of people.
Right.
A la the syndicate, a la the entity. But like, it's weird that there is a shift like after that, 2011, that it's not a dude. The dude in 2011, let's just say that's the one they didn't call, and it's just somebody who wants to bring anarchy.
Right.
To it, that's kind of maybe like we might have started the Joker character with Owen Davian, then we had the Joker character. Now we're going to kind of give you our own Joker of a version
again,
we created.
Ghost Protocol was really the rogue nation.
Right. Exactly.
He was a
Just
dude who
a
went
lone
rogue,
actor.
who had nuclear powers. He was a rogue nation, acting on his own.
Yeah. But then,
But
again,
they had to invoke Ghost Protocol before there was Fallout.
Right. And then, and that all plays with the idea. Did
you get the whole Dead Reckoning thing? I'm an idiot. I had to have it explained to me.
There's a wreck of the. I don't know what.
It's a naval term for when they had to navigate without
sonar or radar.
Yes.
Okay.
You're operating by Dead Reckoning.
You know what? I should have known that because I fucking watched all the last.
Watched Crimson Tide.
Last Ship. I watched 5 seasons of the Last
Hunt
Ship.
for Red October. It's all of that shit. And this whole time, it didn't occur to me. We watched a whole submarine opening sequence, and I was like, Dead Reckoning. Sounds really cool, man. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah.
Someone could have said the name in that sequence, and I wouldn't have noticed.
They did say it in
They are Dead Reckoning.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Jesus.
Okay. Now, we don't have to put him down just because he's not here, but Brendan had a little bit of like, oh no, dude, the stunts weren't really hitting. Here's my counterpoint.
We already said better car sequence than Roman Fast.
Well, I was going to say,
X.
There's that. The mini, like, the Lupin the Third car chase. I mean, the comedy, again, of like, guess what? They've done a bunch of car chases in this franchise alone.
I was worried. I thought it was going to be the same thing I saw in the last 2 movies with a motorcycle and a car.
But the simple dynamic of just like, what do we introduce? A little bit of comedy, a little bit of character. They're handcuffed. Dude, when they tumble down and they flip positions, they're just shit like that. Just executing
I just thought that was McCory shitting on Tomorrow Never Dies.
Oh, no, I didn't take it that way. No,
that's a joke.
Thought it was a cool bit, but obviously. But I'm just like executing really well on these tried and true things is satisfying. Somebody doing a really good chase that just like.
So, you said this to me. You said this to me outside of the theater when I told you that I watched Avatar. I have since watched the second one, and you said they're old tricks, but they're good tricks, so they work. Like you said that about the movie. When Brenda was asking me, like, "Hey,"
I was referring to the first movie where they do all of the setup with the.
That's exactly
with the
what
Sigourney
you.
Weaver character.
That's what you can say right here with this sequence and the things. You could say the same thing to Brendan. Hey, man, they're old tricks. they're done really well and they fucking work. Because it didn't set the ball for me. It kind of shit on Fast X, being like, here's how you really do a good thing in Rome. But I don't think they set out to do that. I don't think there's any way they could have done it.
They just did what they were going to do.
Unless the church has its ties in and knows what's happening before they come out, there's no real way to know it. They just said, we're going to do this, and we're going to do it the best way we think we should do it.
Right.
And it just so happened that it looked a lot better than a giant flame ball just rolling down like, oh my God, it's going to hit the Vatican, And so, again, but there are the sequence that lit the world on fire for me. That was a new trick. Was him flying off that fucking cliff, but everything else that came before it, I'm sorry to say, an old trick. Doesn't light the world on fire, but it's done so fucking good.
It's like that's why we go to these movies, is to watch all these tried and true things executed at a high level by fucking movie stars and people who know what they're doing. That's the whole, that's why we go to the fucking movies.
Right.
I love it.
That's entertainment.
When I keep thinking back to it, I'm like, I almost was like so overwhelmed by how fucking well put together it was that I didn't even give it enough credit. The Abu Dhabi airport sequence, just the
cat and mouse of it all.
You want to talk about editing though too? Where I'm
yeah.
like, oh shit, that one might need to be in the conversation. But no, all of the pieces of that sequence, cutting across the airport, the Shea Wiggum side of it, the computer screens. You got Benji trying to deal with the bomb. You got Luther. You've got him and Grace meeting each other, doing the sleight of hand, trying to like pickpocket stuff off people, like all of that. And it just goes and it just works and it's not confusing and you're in it and you're with it. Doing that type of sequence in a way that feels effortless, I don't think people realize how fucking hard that is.
And they're making reference to like what they're doing and how like batshit crazy it is when he's like, what do I mean bomb? Oh, we just figure we wouldn't tell you. No. You always tell me when there's a bomb. And it's like, but we kind of got it, Ethan. And it's like, yeah, you do. You've nailed this fucking scene. Like, hats off to you, sir. Please, what else can you do? You can drop the villain in right here and blow it all to shit and watch the chaos.
What do they do as the capper to that sequence?
He runs across the fucking top of the airport.
Fucking run for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Because they know that's what we want to fucking see.
Do you know why they set it in that airport? Because it's probably the only airport that has something where you can run across the top of the roof that long. Exactly. And they saw it one time. We're like, you know what? Make a note. We'll be back.
Dude, it's that kind of stuff where I'm like, yeah, was it the flashiest? No, but I'm like, but that is like the highest level execution of that sort of scene that you're gonna see. And they just don't, like, we don't get enough of these movies anymore. So when you see something that's just executing at a like ultra high level, it fucking delivers, dude. That it's one of those where I'm like, we think about the Flash when we start going through set pieces. I mean, flashiness of set pieces, not the Flash the movie. We think about the Flash and the spectacle and everything. But when we talked through like Rogue Nation, one of my favorite sequences is the Opera House, which has some action in it. But really, what's satisfying about that scene is like they're doing all of this like pretty much silently, like just visual storytelling, all coordinated with the crescendo of the opera. And it's like we're watching an operatic sequence set to opera. It's metatextual. It's drawing your attention to it, but it's just doing it well. It's just so good. It's a satisfying thing.
Mm-hmm. It just goes back.
So that's where I'm like,
they told me before I watched it, they made it for me.
Yeah.
The me is everybody goes to see it. Not me, Gavin, not you, Noah. But I feel it. And I subtly feel it. When like you're talking with this scene, when I'm just like in it and I don't think about it. And then I see him running away. And then seamlessly when he gets to her and he's just like, he's in there in his little fucking like, I got my vest on like I'm your lawyer, your counsel, and I'm just looking through shit, looking all Tom Cruise-y from the like early, like mid to late 90s. I'm like, you know what? He made this fucking shit for me. He made this for me because he knew that I was going to come down here on a fucking Tuesday night with my little brother. I was going to sit in these fucking sweaty ass leather seats
so
that I
hot
always
here
get
right
soaked
now.
in. I don't know why I do, but it does. Doesn't matter what angle I sit at. I was going to get some popcorn and I was not going to worry about the summer that wasn't. And I was just going to sit back and have a good time with my little brother. And I was going to go outside when I was done, and we were going to talk about how much of a good fucking time we had with the world's last living movie star and the people that work for him, that help him make the movies that he wants to make for us.
And
that's fucking. If this was not the summer, I maybe would expect some more. But what more can I ask from a summer movie from Mr. Tom Cruise?
Absolutely.
My dick to get sucked? I mean, that would have been great, but I don't think he can pay for that legally. I don't think that's allowed.
Okay.
But if he could have had my popcorn refilled midway through, that would have been great. But he's done everything he can. That's the point. He may go to space.
Well,
I'm betting Felix Baumgartner stratosphere jump. That's what's next.
If he could somehow get all of these people paid and help end the strike so that they can finish Dead Reckoning Part 2, which is still filming, so that we can actually get it next year, that would be really cool. Because I want to have this same experience next year.
Me too.
But I also, again, thinking about this as a Part 1 and Part 2, don't you think part of the, well, maybe we're hitting some of the old favorites, we're doing some stuff you've seen before, but I feel like part of, they're lulling us.
Mm-hmm.
They're lulling us into oh, you have no idea. We showed you the cliff jump from Part 1. We built our whole marketing campaign around it. You guys have no idea what's coming in Part 2. At least that's how I'd like to think. I think,
Yeah.
Especially if it's the final shebang. I mean,
I'm telling you.
Every set piece has to be the set piece.
Felix Baumgartner's stratosphere jump. It takes you 5 hours to get up there and about 30 minutes to get down.
Okay.
Did you watch that when it actually happened?
No.
Dude, the part where they're like, hello, because he lost consciousness for a split second coming back in, and he kind of woke back up, but they couldn't hear him. And you're like, oh, dude, this guy's just dead. Or he's just it's a dead stick, and we don't know what happened to him. And it wasn't like a see the shoot, no, Tom's okay. It was like, he was like, I'm here, I'm good. And they're like, okay. And I think he pulled his chute earlier because it's almost like he woke back up and pulled it. So oh great, it's going to take him forever to get down now. If he'd have waited 30 more seconds, he'd only be down in an hour. But now it's going to take him way longer just because of how high up in the air he was. But to just watch the footage of that, I'm telling you, when I think about it now, after seeing this movie, I just picture Tom in that suit, just the back of his head, or watching his face in the suit, looking out, curvature of the earth, and just I guess I gotta. But inevitably, something's gonna go wrong. Something's gonna happen. It's gonna get twisted around. He might fall back into the tether line that brought him up there in the balloon or something. Something wild's gonna happen, and it'll be great. Who knows?
We'll see. Next summer. Okay.
I did see Transformers. That's another tie-in. You saw the Barbie movie for Mattel and all that. I saw the Transformers for
Hasbro.
For Hasbro.
Now they're building their own universe.
Yes.
You stayed for the post-credit scene.
I did. I was so happy, but
so
also
are
didn't
they
need
connecting it with the pre-existing
I hope
Joe
not.
verse, or are they setting, a flag in the sand saying we're going to make new Joe movies?
Well, see...
Or are we counting Snake Eyes as part of this?
See, I don't know where they fall with that as far as who's in control and what's what with that. I would appreciate it if they just went brand new everything, because I think there's some actors now who but you got to have fun with it. This Transformers, it was fun. And not to say Bumblebee was adorable and cute, and I have not, I will go on record, I have not seen The Last Night, even though Transformers is one of my favorite franchises. I feel like if I watch it, then it's they're over. Because I've seen them all, and what were they if not Michael Bay masterpieces? All of them, every last one, even 2. That's right, I said it. But whoever's doing it, you can tell the jump from, and it's crazy to think, because when The Last Night was in 2017, when you get Bumblebee, the weight and just the CGI of Bumblebee and the Transformers in the world they inhabit. I don't know if it's just a different studio house or what it is, but they feel more grounded and more weighted in the scene. It doesn't, and maybe it's just because they don't have the Michael Bay amber scene correction done on them. I don't know what it is, but this one, I love that there's a male and a female lead. They are not romantically inclined. They both have their own thing at stake here. They both can bring their own thing to it, and there is not this whole like, we're here to protect the human. It's like Optimus Prime is like, what the fuck are humans doing here? We don't need them. We don't need to trust them. What do we, and it takes, Ron Perlman as like, one of the Maximals. I'm getting confused. Being like, no, dude, like we lived with the humans here when we got here. I'm named after you. Like I they're fine.
I'm the biggest fan.
Yeah. So I would definitely recommend that. I'm really happy with
it. It is available to buy now,
right,
or high price rental on all your VOD services.
And I cannot.
I'll be checking it out.
I kept looking the whole time. I was like, where do I know this girl from? Judas and the Black Messiah. Completely.
Dominic Fishback.
Yeah, dude. I fucking. Yeah.
Did you watch Swarm yet?
I need to. Okay. I'm in the middle of. I'm a Virgo. I got like 2 more episodes of that. Because then I saw the first episode of Invincible. Adam Eve came out. I was like, I gotta watch that too. And then I watched a series we're gonna talk about in a little bit.
I don't know if we're still doing that, but
okay. Okay. It's whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, just maybe not tonight. That's all I was saying.
Yeah.
We have gone for 2 hours, 15 minutes. But I don't know.
We need like an all-day session. We need like let's start at 12 and just get it all out.
Do you want to do that on like a Saturday or a Sunday?
Yeah.
Not this weekend.
No, definitely not.
Going to the ball game.
Oh, you're coming up for the ball game?
I sure am.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You saw I saw Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which was fantastic. I think that's the only other like big summer one that hasn't gotten up.
Fast X we talked about. I'm trying to think.
I did a little episode called 27 Recs for our 27th episode where I just talked about everything that I'd seen so far this year.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
I'm trying to think. That's
so I covered a lot of stuff on there.
Okay. Just you talking to yourself about movies you
see?
Yeah,
it was a solo pod.
Dope.
Yeah, it was really good. Highest rated of the year. So
I'll have to check the numbers on that. Something
might be out of a job, is all I'm saying.
Something tells me those are a little inflated.
But no, Across the Spider-Verse was kind of the only other big recent one I caught up with that I had not yet seen, and is a very good movie. I liked it better than Oppenheimer and Barbie, if we're scaling it. Okay. But I also saw my number one of the year. Something you can keep on your radar since you haven't listened to that episode apparently. A little movie called Past Lives. Absolute banger.
Okay.
It's 10 out of 10. My only 10 out of 10 for the year.
Did you see Infinity Pool?
I did.
What'd you think?
Oh, I loved it.
Me too.
Went down a little bit for me on a rewatch.
Yeah.
I saw it once in the theater. Showed it to Veronica on Hulu a couple weeks ago. Yeah. And I just dropped it by like a 0.5. So it came down a little on my list, but I like it. Way more, it sounds weird to say, but way more fun and watchable than Possessor.
Yes.
But also not really like a good time. And yeah, the more, I went back to, I've now seen each one of them a subsequent time, and I think Possessor's still my fave.
Just the concept level, I appreciate Possessor so much more because like I get that like Infinity Pool, I kind of saw where it was going to the point I did the one fake out we got that I appreciated that the most about of all of them. So
not to spoil that, and I know some people are still getting to it because it did okay in theaters. But Infinity Pool, the new Brandon Cronenberg, it's available on Hulu. The point you were just making, there is kind of a one kind of fake out scene. All I will say is if you've seen that trailer, you know that it does involve doubles of some sort.
Right.
Put it that way. The thing I like most about that movie, and my first time experience with it in particular, was every single time I was like, oh, I think I know what he's going to do or say with this concept. Mm-hmm. He would basically tell me, no, you're a fucking idiot, dude. I don't care about that thing. Like, actively tell me in the movie.
Right.
Like, no, that thing that you think you're supposed to be spending all your time thinking about, that's not what I'm trying to say with this. Get that shit out your head.
Right.
And I loved that about it, basically. And another just perfectly unhinged and incredible performance from Mia Goth.
Oh, yeah.
She's just like one of my absolute favorites. And I can't overstate enough how much affection and weird I should not have this much respect for a man that looks like that, because fuck him. But Skarsgård's commitment to the bit of just like, no, I will play the most disgusting and despicable people with relish, and I will degrade myself, and I will make myself unsexy and unglamorous and all of that.
But still be fucking sexy and
but
glamorous.
still be like the hottest dude on the planet at the same time.
And if you're not aware of it,
Still
just
look
ask your
like a
girlfriend.
Norse god the whole time I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I really love the commitment to the bit, but again, we don't have to say anything else, but I will just say the grossest thing in this entire movie, which has a lot of like pretty intense imagery, the grossest shot in the entire movie is Alexander Skarsgård eating cherries. That shit was disgusting, and I love cherries.
Yeah.
Okay, check out Infinity Pool if you
Available on Hulu.
yes.
We
got. Yeah, is there anything else?
I'm trying to.
Dude,
Yeah, I should
throw
have
it
made
in.
I should have made
We're
a
at
list.
220.
I wouldn't even think about it. Most of the other stuff's TV. Honestly.
Well, I guess we got to do a giant-sized TV episode, which is probably why we probably shouldn't start one tonight, because you
Yeah, we can do
will
that.
be leaving for quite a while.
Well, if we're gonna do a giant-sized TV one, let's do that. But we should save one for like everything. Like it'd be everything that isn't the bear, and then we can talk about the bear on its own.
You think the bear needs a separate episode?
I don't know. I got a lot to say about the bear.
I mean,
Maybe
I
you
got
don't
to
like
say-
it as much as I do. Maybe you hate it worse than I do. I don't know.
I can talk about the bear all fucking day if you want to.
Yes, chef.
So you think? So you wouldn't want to pair the bear and the idol, because I feel like that could be a nice 80-20 split, and we could just get it over with.
So you want to compare the idol and the
No,
bear?
there doesn't have to be
Not
any
compare. No, I'm saying
comparison.
like no. But talk about it in the same breath.
In the same breath. No,
Like on the same show.
yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We pair them together on the menu. It is the
Sure.
bear and the idol.
Well,
The next special we have is the
it's because you
side-
took too long on the fucking recording schedule. Originally, we were supposed to be doing. We were going to do a play on Dave season 3, and instead of Looking for Love tour, it was going to be the Summer of Smug tour, and it was going to be, it was going to be the Searching for Smug tour, and we were going to talk about Dave and the Idol, and I was going to talk to you about this whole like metatextual idea of how.
So let's do
like,
that and
one-
give the bear its own episode.
We can do that, but like Dave has literally been gone, and dude, I'm sorry, we'll get into it more, but like the Idol, for something that everybody was so just like, I'm tearing my hair out over this.
Our pet's heads are falling
Literally,
off.
as soon as it ended, silence.
Yeah.
I'm just like, guys, it came and went, and like all of you wanted to have like, were acting like it was the downfall of Western civilization, and now I genuinely don't think anybody has had a second thought about it since it ended.
I think about it all the time.
I'm sure you do, brother.
Yeah.
I can't wait for this conversation. I think we just need to keep teasing it, though. This is like the 3rd or 4th episode.
We should.
Because I think it might be the podcast that ends the network.
Noah, if you don't want to get into Jocelyn, her music career, Tedros, and what it's like to be an idol in 2023,
I'm not familiar.
we don't have to talk
I'm
about
not
it.
familiar with Tedros. Are you referring to Mauricio Jackson?
Noah, there is a man named Mauricio Jackson.
Is it Mauricio?
Yeah, Mauricio Jackson. You're right. Yeah, get it right. Yeah, you got it. But he is better known by his stage name, Tedros.
Oh my God.
He is a finder of talent. He is a harbinger of talent. Anyone with talent is in his stratosphere. He is so talented.
I'll tell you just a teaser that I think might surprise you. It is not my bottom of the barrel show of the year.
Oh, good. I hoped it wasn't.
It's second from the
I
bottom.
figured it
but
was
is
really
not the
low, but I
bottom.
didn't think it was the worst. I'm curious to know what the worst show was.
Fucking Black Mirror this season, dude. Just like,
Really?
can
You didn't
we
like
end-
any of them?
No.
Are you just judging it as a season?
Oh, well, okay. Teaser for our television conversation,
Yeah.
our broad television conversation coming at you next week. If anybody's stuck around for 2 hours and 20 minutes of this, God bless you. You're a real American hero, G.I. Joe. Okay. I rated Black Mirror higher on a number scale this season than I did The Idol. But on my overall list, which is where things like really shake out because it's a mix of favorite and best, and like everything's in conversation with each other, and things can fluctuate. I still have The Idol much higher because like there was shit going on.
Yeah.
First 3 Black Mirrors, solid. Nothing this season is like anywhere near the caliber of the first 3 seasons. It's just not.
Yeah.
Like, which is fine.
I'm just happy we got it, dude. I didn't think we were getting any more. It was in production limbo for years.
It was fine. It was just underwhelming. So I have just its biggest crime was it didn't give me a new like classic episode.
Okay, well,
that's all I want from any given season. Just give me one.
Where does it sit with the last crop that we got?
Oh, it's better than the last one.
See, that's what
well,
I'm
the last
saying.
one was only 3 episodes, and one of them is the worst episode in the fucking like whole franchise, probably.
Was that the Miley Cyrus?
Yes.
Yeah.
But well, I said that until, dude, Maisie Day in this season. Like, we cannot. Sorry, we cannot.
I was trying. I was seeing if you might want to do it. I was just seeing if it was there.
No.
Okay.
Can't do it.
All right. Just remember all these things when we start talking.
I'll never forget.
Okay, good. Which one is
All right,
Maisie
well,
Day?
Zazzy, the werewolf.
Oh yeah, that one was cute.
It was exactly. It was just kind of like a.
Same.
Well, that could have been anything.
I threw it in there with Demon. Like it was like, oh, these are cute. They're it's horror. There's no technology.
But they just don't feel like.
No, they don't, because there's no
Black Mirror.
technology. There's
So
no
I'm like,
technology
put it
whatsoever.
I'm like, so put it in a different label. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I have my issues. Okay.
But the bear we like.
The bear we love.
Okay, good.
You're not allowed on this network if you don't love the bear.
Yes, chef.
It's a rule.
Yes, chef.
We only let people speak that are bear aficionados. So now you're allowed to, you can speak again.
Thanks, cousin.
I'm so fascinated though because you were like I wasn't sold.
I wasn't
and
at
then
all.
it won me over, and I was like, I gotta hear this story. I'm so excited. All right, so teasers.
I just wanted Bernthal to turn to me like, do you guys know there's people talking about me being a bad co-op out there? Huh?
You're saying I'm a bad chef.
Being a
You're saying
bad
all I
chef.
can do is beefs, man.
Oh, come on, Bear. Oh, come Bear. Oh, we saw. Oh, Bear. We saw Claire Bear.
Okay,
Bear.
one last question, and then I'm fucking stopping this episode. It's gonna be so long we can't even release it in one file. Okay.
Okay.
The bear or the idol?
As far as what?
Just your ranking for the year and overall.
Oh, I mean,
as a person,
on planet Earth,
as a consumer,
as a
media.
Homo sapien who lives in the air of the atom splitting and the nuclear fall. Obviously, it's the bear over the idol, dude. I love the idol, but like the bear is it's not my favorite of the year. I don't think. I gotta look back at stuff I've watched.
We gotta. Well, I mean, save that for the pod.
Right, but like, yeah.
I'm just trying to gauge how much of this is a bit where it was like, dude, I mean, it's the idol, it's the weekend. Like, you were always going to love it to a certain degree. Like, how much of it is like, I got to defend it against the haters.
I'm not defending nothing. You can say whatever you want. There's
We're not doing it right now.
but like, nah, God damn it. I'm just saying that, like, you can hate it all you want, but people who hated it didn't know what it was. And I'll explain to you what
was it?
It was a love note.
To be continued.
It was a love note to Paul Verhoeven. That's all I'm going to say.
He wishes he could smell Paul Verhoeven's dirty fucking sheets.
You going to say that
He
about
wishes he could huff the fumes.
Well, question. Who left this show? Who left this show? Who do they have trouble with as a director and they left this show?
You are not going to lay this at Amy Simons' feet.
It's Amy Simons. I thought it was somebody else. Never mind.
They had trouble with her?
Not trouble with her. In my head, it was...
By they,
listen,
you mean your precious fucking... Go ahead.
My precious who?
Abel Tesfaye, basically. Everything we... Oh, my God. We're just having the episode now.
Yeah,
we can't do this
Do
right
it.
now.
Just do it.
No.
Everything we said,
I
what?
refuse. We have to end this
He tried to
episode.
hook up with her and she wasn't having it? What are we talking
No,
about here?
no. I haven't heard anything to that regard. No. It was basically like the majority of the show was pretty much done, And then Mr. Creative Pants over here is like, actually, I really think it should be this thing. And literally, they scrapped like 80% of what had been shot. He brought in Sam Levinson, and it became a completely different show.
So the question we'll have to figure out is, can we find out what that show was and if it would have been better than what we got?
I think unquestionably it would have been better.
Really?
Because it would have been coherent. To be continued.
Thank you, Chef.